But right now, the situation he sees in Kinghua City has clearly formed a pyramid shape. Think about it, you can tell just from the situation in Evergreen Valley. The slave status, lowly status, including the sacrificial status jokingly referred to by Su Jing and his four siblings, are the three layers of the population that occupy the largest proportion. Unable to acquire cultivation resources, they are forced to obey the system and comply with the exploitation and oppression from the four layers above them. People cannot willingly accept oppression, just like those Hu brothers. Aren't they trying to find ways to shed their lowly and slave status? Of course, without strength, they can only find ways within the rules, stealing registration books, saving silver, running to Kinghua City to change their status when their master isn't paying attention, hoping to turn things around. The Hu brothers are just a microcosm of these three types of people. Not only them, Su Jing and his four siblings are also included. If they hadn't met me, they would have died at the entrance of the bone-eroding path, which shows that the situation for those without status in Evergreen Valley is even worse than those with slave and lowly status. The bottom three classes, due to the long-term influence of the feudal town system shaping a mental inertia, along with their own weak strength, mostly dare not have thoughts of resistance, but the desire to change their class is certainly there, and it is definitely strong. The four vassals of Mo River use the six-class system, as does Kaikyu, so the situation in the other three feudal towns is likely no better. This means the four vassals of Mo River right now, seemingly prosperous, is actually a large steamer being roasted over a raging fire, with the four upper classes pressing down the lid tightly to prevent it from exploding. As long as someone adds more fuel below, or throws something into the steamer to cause a strong reaction, it will explode immediately. Xia Hong's eyes grew increasingly bright, turning to look at Su Jing and his four siblings before him, noticing that they were looking at the pill bottle in his hand. He smiled at once, asking softly, "Kaiyunju just said at the feast that he sent someone to deliver registration books to the four of you personally. Is that true?" The four returned to their senses. Their expressions instantly became invigorated. Then they carefully took out their own silver-made registration orders and golden registration books and placed them in front of Xia Hong. "Oh, noble status, not bad." Xia Hong fully understood Su Jing and the four's obsession with registration, including that their parents died for it, so seeing their actions, he first deliberately teased them, then looked at them with a laugh and asked, "You should all consider this a dream come true. I asked Kaiyunju in the City Lord Mansion. There are fewer than 100,000 people with second-class noble status in the whole Kaikyu. Now you've achieved it overnight, what's it like?" Upon hearing Xia Hong's question, Su Jing and his siblings quickly exchanged glances, then they all showed a complex expression on their faces, remaining silent. After about 10 breaths, finally the eldest Su Jing stepped forward, cupping his hands and said, "If not for you, sir, how could we four have such treatment? Rest assured, Sir Su Jing." Hearing Su Jing about to express thanks and loyalty again, Xia Hong immediately waved his hand to interrupt, shaking his head repeatedly. "I've heard enough of this to grow calluses on my ears. Don't always harp on it. I asked you to talk about your feelings, just talk about them directly." Su Jing, being interrupted, immediately showed anxiety and became tongue-tied. However, Su Zinger, standing behind them, recalling Xia Hong's gaze when they carefully took out the registration books, bowed her head for a moment, gathered her courage and said, "The reason Kinghua City gave us noble status is entirely due to the strength you displayed at the city gate. Your question about our feelings regarding the noble status, Zinger's view is that these so-called registration books are merely a waste of paper, because as long as one has strength, even without it, people will willingly offer it to you. Zinger and three brothers receiving noble status is ultimately thanks to your glory and has nothing to do with our own strength. From now on, Zinger will cultivate diligently, never slack off. Someday, I will rely on my strength just like you to have people willingly offer the registration book to me." After Su Zinger boldly spoke, seeing Xia Hong's eyes full of appreciation and satisfaction, she was immediately greatly encouraged, her expression becoming extremely invigorated. "Not bad. In my view, the registration book is indeed a mere waste of paper. Strength is fundamental. I've taken you along for months. Besides providing you resources for cultivation and teaching martial arts, I haven't taught you much. Consider today's lesson as the first one, just those 6 words, strength is fundamental." Having said this, Xia Hong paused, then solemnly said, "Systems and rules are used to bind the weak. The stronger you are, the freer you become. When you are strong enough, you don't have to do anything and others will make exceptions for you. Benefiting from me can only be temporary but not for a lifetime. You saw on the bone-eroding path, I am from the outer realm and won't stay with you forever. I'll leave someday, then you'll have to rely on yourselves. Your registration books are all bound to me, which means without me, others won't take you seriously. They don't offer any guarantee. Upon hearing Xia Hong mention he will definitely leave in the future, Su Jing and his siblings, faces instantly filled with tension. At the last sentence, they lowered their heads, each nodding as they looked at the Hong Yu characters on their registration books. Kaiku controls all cultivation resources, while there are over 1 million people in Evergreen Valley whose circumstances are worse than yours, countless. There are many with better talent than you, but they don't have the luck of meeting me. Next, I'll stay in Qinghua City for 3 months, fully supplying your cultivation resources. After 3 months, whether you can follow me away depends on your progress. As he said this, Xia Hong paused, glancing at the 4 before him, first pointing at Su Jing and his 3 siblings. You 3, the minimum requirement is 7 manes. Then he pointed at Su Zinger and said, as for you, it's 9 manes. Upon hearing Xia Hong set these targets, Su Jing and the 3 brothers' expressions instantly froze. 3 months improving by 5 manes, how is that possible? As for Su Zinger, even more impossible, improving by 6 manes in 3 months, it seems like an unattainable goal. She even felt Xia Hong purposefully intends to abandon them, her eyes immediately reddening. All right, you may all leave now. Don't come looking for me unless necessary. Seeing their expressions, Xia Hong immediately shook his head, didn't say anything further, and directly waved the 4 away. The 4 originally wanted to grit their teeth to say something, but seeing Xia Hong already rising and walking toward the quiet room behind, could only nod and bow as they walked out. This is a matter of perspective. Su Jing and his siblings, after all, are from Evergreen Valley. Improving by 5 manes in 3 months seems impossible in their eyes. But from Xia Hong's perspective, it's different. The early-stage cold resistance cultivation speed, as long as the blood and flesh are squeezed hard enough, can be very fast, plus they don't have to worry about resource issues. Of course, it's not that simple. For Xia Hong's set goal to be achieved by the 4 of them, they must completely spend these 3 months focusing on cultivation to have a chance of succeeding. If there's real potential and perseverance, further investment is definitely worthwhile. But if they get dazzled by the city, then forget it, just consider it a charity. Xia Hong entered the quiet room. After contemplating for a moment, he slightly waved his hand towards the soft bed. A 5-meter-high silver 12-petal lotus platform quietly appeared. The Yangtze tripod will be left in Xia City to ensure the security of the headquarters, so it's not brought out, but the Enlightenment Lotus platform must be taken along because it's a divine artifact with 5 times cultivation enhancement. Besides, others can't use it even if left in Xia City. 4 months in Evergreen Valley, healing plus cultivation, the improvement has been minimal, only increased by approximately 1 caddy's strength. Next, it should be possible to have a strong boost. Washing marrow pills, 20 top-grade bone-shedding pills, according to my cultivation plan, should be used up in approximately 3 months, hopefully increasing my strength a bit more to face Linqiu County with more confidence. This time before leaving, Xia Hong already calculated that he might need to stay in the feudal town area for a long time, plus Mu Dong just happened to develop the yellow mustard bag, so he brought quite a lot. Just the cultivation resources alone, 500 bone condensing pills, 300 bone gathering pills, even 200 blood ginseng pills, and the approximately 1 caddy's strength increase over the previous 4 months relied heavily on normal cultivation, and the combined effect of 12 blood scripture skills and blood ginseng pills. Now, 2 of these 3 elements have become reinforced versions. The improvement is definitely greater than before. Xia Hong flew onto the Silver Lotus platform, took the Dan medicine, and directly closed his eyes to fall into a cultivation state. Chapter 1365. Chapter 442. Slave Village No Way Out, Su Zinger's Ingenious Mind. KQ Calendar Year 297, January 25, Daytime. The 9 towns of the South Slope are essentially transparent to the 4 vassals along the Mo River, especially in front of the KQ and Chengqing feudal towns. Moreover, the northern 3 towns, high-level officials maintain close ties with the 2 feudal towns. These aspects, Xia Hong was aware of even before he arrived. However, what he thought was evidently a bit simplistic. During his time in Evergreen Valley, he discovered that the yearly calendar used by Kaikyu and the 9 towns, apart from the year being different, was completely synchronized in dates. The Mole calendar was initially used in the northern 3 towns, and later adopted by the other 6 towns following trade integration. It's normal for camps to develop over different periods, so the year difference is expected. Dates might be extremely close due to the growth patterns of vegetation or other coincidences, but being completely identical is somewhat strange. For instance, the Great Xia's calendar has a 4-day difference in dates with the 9 towns, which is a normal phenomenon. The case with Kaikyu implies one thing: it started influencing the 3 towns long ago. From this, one can infer that the relationship between the 3 towns and Kaikyu is much deeper than Xia Hong previously imagined. Despite reaching this conclusion, the mountains are high, the roads far, and there is no means to send messages back, so Xia Hong could only silently keep it in mind and plan to respond when he returns to the 9 towns' territory. Much like when he was in Xia City, he initially went into seclusion for cultivation, essentially ignoring the outside world. At his residence, Zhou Qing and the other servants, though curious about their new master, were constrained by status and Xia Hong's instructions, and thus did not dare casually disturb him in his quiet room. For any matters, they had to seek instructions from Su Jing and the other 3. This matter, as it happened, was somewhat peculiar. Xia Hong arrived in Qinghua City on the night of January 18th. Although he became the mansion's master upon arrival, he was immediately invited by Kai Yunju to the city lord mansion for a banquet, then returned to his quiet chamber to begin seclusion. Therefore, Zhou Qing and the other servants in 7 days had only seen Xia Hong once on the night he returned from the banquet. Fortunately, they saw him that one time, or these servants might not even recognize their master, which in the strictly hierarchical Kaikyu feudal town would be unimaginable. Our new master, he's too diligent, so young, yet so powerful and still trained so tirelessly. In 7 days, neither of the deputy city lords nor the 4 great commanders who have repeatedly sent banquet invitations got a response. Not just that, last night, another maid from the city lord mansion came, sought housekeeper Zhou, said Miss Menjia invited but was similarly declined. Tisk tisk. Others might desperately wish for such opportunities, but our master has remarkable willpower. What willpower? Haven't you hardly left the mansion these days? Indeed, I haven't gone out. What do you mean? At the Hong mansion entrance, Du He and Wang Long were chatting during their duty today. Wang Long evidently knew more about the situation, asking Du He if he hadn't left the mansion for several days. Hearing Du He's reply, he looked around, then approached to whisper. It's not willpower. Our master simply doesn't regard the deputy city lords and the 4 great commanders. I heard outside that when the master entered the city 7 days ago, he had a duel with the city lord, both having equal strength. What? He immediately retorted upon hearing, then seeing Wang Long nod to confirm, his pupils filled with astonishment, his face instantly full of disbelief. To duel the city lord without a clear winner. Not just strength, you saw how young the master is, right? When he entered the city 7 days ago, he claimed to be the Dakin prince. At the city lord mansion's banquet 7 days ago, the master depicted the majesty of Great Qin, which not only stunned those present at the banquet but even the city lord. The noble circle in the city is now discussing how the Great Qin feudal town's strength is unfathomable and possibly far superior to Kaikyu. He listened with trembling pupils, then suddenly recalled the night when Xia Hong returned to the mansion 7 days ago, immediately realizing. No wonder, Miss Menjia's purple bell sedan, among those qualified to sit in it in the whole Qinghua city, you couldn't even count up to the number of both hands. I've been puzzled these days how our new master could have such great influence. Not only young, strong, with such a grand background, no wonder he has the confidence to refuse invitations from so many prominent figures. Even the city lord sent his beloved young daughter to ingratiate herself. What are the deputy city lords and 4 commanders compared to that? Opportunities, the chance to ascend in one leap. All confusion cleared simultaneously. Du He immediately responded, looking up at Wang Long with gratitude all over his face. Hezi, not many in the mansion know this yet. We all came from the slave village together. Don't say I didn't look after you. Du He's face full of gratitude, he thought for a moment, then solemnly bowed to Wang Long with excitement in his voice. Brother Wang, great kindness, Du He will remember forever. If fortune allows the slave status to be transferred under the master's name someday, Duhe will surely repay Brother Wang. Nuji Village, as the name implies, is the village where those in slave status, essentially slaves, reside. Slaves in Kaiku typically come from three sources. Firstly, people of no status or lowly status voluntarily sell themselves into slave status, which is the largest proportion. Secondly, those originally with a fourth-degree citizen status, degraded to slave status due to crimes. Thirdly, new populations captured during Kaiku's conflicts with the outside world or when exploring new territories, usually also relegated to slave status or lowly status. Chapter 1366, Chapter 442, Slave Village Nowhere to Turn, Su Zinger's Exquisite Mind, Part 2. As a slave, naturally there is a master. However, not all slaves have such good fortune to directly find a master who wants them. So the first master for most slaves is actually the subordinate bureau of each city in Kaiku. Before they find a master, their registration books are held by the subordinate bureau, which manages them uniformly, including their personal freedom and all hunting and gathering activities, all controlled by the subordinate bureau. Of course, the subordinate bureau of each city does not keep these slaves idly. Mining, gathering, hunting, and fishing all require these people to do. The so-called slave villages are usually built around major cities or near large resource gathering sites, managed uniformly by people arranged by the subordinate bureau, where all masterless slaves live and work. There are too many slaves in Kaiku. The dignitaries do not lack slaves. Apart from a few with good talent, good looks, or even good luck, most slaves basically work in these slave villages from birth until death. However, being personal property, each city's subordinate bureau does provide certain guarantees to the slave villages, at least ensuring safety with no worries, and supplying some materials and even cultivation resources, which is much better than those of lowly status people engaged in menial industries. The only way to leave the slave village is for someone to pay the subordinate bureau to buy your registration book, in other words, to be bought. Duhe, Wang Long, and the other 200 slaves currently at the mansion are only temporarily allocated to the Hong mansion by the subordinate bureau. Their registration books are still held by the bureau. If Hong Yu, the master, does not buy them, the Hong mansion must pay a rental fee to the bureau each month. For Duhe and Wang Long, people of slave status, the best path is to find a powerful master family, to loyally serve them, which is far better than living in a slave village. With a kind and generous master, they might even have a chance to leave slave status and become a citizen. Such strength, with such powerful background, probably few master families in all of Kaiku are this strong, must find a way to become the gentleman's servant. He is well aware of the weight of the name Kai Yunju, King Hua City Lord, Kaiku's sword saint, even as a mere ordinary slave. The fact that Hong Yu can spar with Kai Yunju and receive such treatment speaks volumes of Hong Yu's strength and background. The master seems not easy to approach, and since returning to the mansion, he's been in seclusion with no chance at all, must find a way through the three young gentlemen and the fourth lady. Rower happens to serve by the fourth lady's side, close at hand. Maybe there's a chance. He quickly had several thoughts flash through his mind, realizing that his sister Du Ru serving as Su Zinger's personal maid is an excellent breakthrough point. Who's there? Halt! While contemplating this, Duhe was suddenly startled by Wang Long's shout, looking up to find a middle-aged man in green clothes, injured all over, rushing directly towards the mansion's gate. Rushing the gate in broad daylight? Are you crazy? He dared not slack off, swiftly drawing his blade to stop the man. However, he and Wang Long weren't even needed to block the man. The green-clothed man evidently had no intention of breaking in, directly kneeling about 5 or 6 meters away from them with a thud. I am Hu Taijiang, urgently requesting to meet the Hong Prince. I beg you both to relay the message, please, gentlemen. Hu Taijiang looked extremely flustered, kneeling and immediately kowtowing, disregarding his injuries while persistently pleading with Duhe and Wang Long to relay the message. Upon hearing this, Duhe and Wang Long's expressions turned somber. They were both dispatched as gatekeepers, which spoke volumes of their status among the slaves in the Hong mansion. Forget entering the inner residence to meet Hong Yu, they had trouble even seeing the steward Zhou Qing. Get out of here, where did this wretch come from? You think you can see the prince? Wang Long immediately drove him away verbally. However, just as he finished speaking, more than 10 individuals in white robes rapidly ran from one end of the street. Law enforcement people. Seeing that team, Du He and Wang Long's pupils slightly contracted. The governance in Kaiku relies mainly on 3 departments and 1 pavilion, the pavilion being the Treasure Pavilion, and the 3 departments being the Subordinate Bureau, Law Enforcement Department, and Execution Department. The Law Enforcement Department, as the name suggests, is responsible for penalties across regions, from military status to those without status. These 5 categories of people, as long as they violate Kaiku's laws, are subject to their capture and punishment. Even though Du He and Wang Long serve at the Hong Mansion, they were slaves after all, hence their hearts couldn't help but race at the sight of the law enforcement people. But the subsequent events led to an unexpected pause in their expression. The group of white-robed enforcers stopped at the mansion gateway, and the middle-aged leader approached with great humility, cupping his hands towards Du He and Wang Long while bowing apologetically. "I am Zhang Yiping, captain of the 5th team of the inner-city law enforcement, pursuing a fugitive here. I apologize for any disturbance to your honorable mansion." For over 10 breaths, Du He and Wang Long's expressions remained frozen until Wang Long first recovered, hurriedly returned the courtesy, and replied, "No need to be polite, Captain Zhang. It wasn't much of a disturbance since no one was alarmed." Evidently not expecting Wang Long to be so amenable, Zhang Yiping first showed a hint of surprise, quickly composing himself, then signaled to several nearby individuals with his eyes before smiling and saying, "Thank you both for your understanding. In that case, I'll lead my team back and report." Chapter 1367, Chapter 442, Slave Village Nowhere to Turn, Zinger's Exquisite Mind. Several members of the law enforcement team immediately rushed out and restrained Hu Taijiang on the ground. "I really know Hong Prince and Su Zing." The members of the law enforcement team acted with extreme ruthlessness. Seeing Hu Taijiang still chattering, they drew their daggers and pierced through his face, dragging him away directly. Wang Long watched as the members of the law enforcement team left, in a daze for quite a while. After finally calming down, he turned and sighed. "I have heard the elders in the slave village say that the noble mansion has no servants, but I never understood what it meant. Today, I truly understand." The members of the law enforcement team, even the captain, actually saluted us. If we tell others, they'd probably think we're crazy, right? After Wang Long's question, he received no reply from Du He for a long time. Turning his head, he found Du He deep in thought. Wang Long immediately guessed, with a strange expression, "You don't think that guy really knows Lord Hong, do you? Look at his attire, his age, and his strength at the 5th level, which doesn't even match ours. He probably heard the names of the Lord and the 4th Miss from somewhere and was desperate, trying his luck under pressure from the law enforcement team." He nodded gently at these words, his brows gradually relaxing. At midnight, on the left side of the main building of Hong Mansion, the 4th auxiliary building. Are you going to deliver food to the young lady?" "Yes, the young lady hasn't eaten since the last meal. I just warmed up a dish in the kitchen and am preparing to take it to her. I happen to have nothing to do, so let me help you deliver it." "Thank you, Sister Zioru." Du took the lunchbox from Bai Yu's hand and walked gracefully into the auxiliary building. She passed through the main hall and arrived at the door of the quiet room, where her expression revealed a hint of unease. "Miss, the meal has been delivered. Come in." Du opened the door with the lunchbox in her hand, walked inside, and saw Su Zinger still sitting cross-legged on the soft couch cultivating. First, her face showed a touch of admiration, and then she placed the lunchbox on the table, taking out the food items one by one and arranging them properly. The master of the house is formidable, and these 4 little disciples are not simple at all. Since the 18th, whether it was Su Zinger or the 3 Su Jing brothers, they hadn't left the quiet room at all. Their cultivation efforts were to the point of neglecting sleep and food. Neglecting sleep and food is not just a metaphor, but a reality. Su Zinger barely ate 1 meal a day, and her sleep lasted no more than 2 hours, pushing her cultivation to the limits of cold resistance level. Naturally unaware of Ru's thoughts, Su Zinger completed her cultivation. A hint of melancholy appeared in her eyes first, and then she went to the table, eating at a pace that seemed to race against time, without the slightest trace of a young lady's demeanor. However, after only a few bites, Su Zinger noticed Ru's expression, hesitant to speak, and couldn't help but ask curiously, "What's the matter, Rauer? Is there something you want to tell me?" "Miss I." Su Zinger frowned, pondering for a moment. Thinking that Ru was concerned about the slave status matter, shook her head and said, "Rower, as I mentioned before, the matter of buying your registration book is not something I can decide. We must wait for Master to come out of seclusion and consult him." With that she paused slightly, thinking about Du Ru's caring nature over the past 7 days, her gentle and kind character, and couldn't help but continue. "Don't worry, I will speak with Master properly. Your registration book isn't expensive, only costing 30,000 silver taels, so Master should agree." The master-disciple relationship was something Xia Hong fabricated for the four of them to close and cultivate in peace, and Su Zinger quite naturally accepted it, the words coming easily to her. As for 30,000 silver taels in the past, Su Zinger couldn't possibly utter the words "not expensive." But now it was different. Before going into seclusion, Xia Hong, for simplicity, entrusted part of Hong Mansion's financial power to her. She held over 3 million silver notes stamped by Kai Qiu, so to her, 30,000 silver taels wasn't much. Though she had only interacted with Du Ru for 7 days, among all the maids in Hong Mansion, only Du Ru suited her taste the best. As long as Xia Hong agreed, she would certainly buy Du Ru. However, Su Zinger was mistaken. Du Ru's hesitation wasn't because of the slave status matter. "Miss, how could I trouble you with the slave status matter? The main thing is, I just heard something and I'm not sure if I should tell you." Su Zinger slightly furrowed her brows, looking at Du Ru, her eyes displaying a scrutinizing gaze, and whispered, "What is it? Just say it directly." Though only 15 years old in terms of mind and thought, Su Jing's 3 brothers couldn't compare to her. Du Ru's hesitant expression clearly aimed to indirectly prompt her to ask, something she immediately spotted. As Su Zinger took the initiative to inquire, her mind had already dismissed the idea of redeeming Du Ru's registration. She previously thought Du Ru was simple and kind, but now it appeared she had misjudged. Unaware of this, Du Ru continued, "Today, the city's law enforcement team pursued an escapee to the mansion's gate. The escapee claimed to be Hu Taijiao and not only knew the master of the house, but also mentioned the young lady's name." Upon hearing this, Su Zinger was momentarily stunned, then quickly recalled the name Hu Taijiao, her expression subtly changing. Was he injured and also captured by the law enforcement team? Seeing Su Zinger's change in expression, Du Ru immediately realized that the person indeed knew the young lady, nodded repeatedly, with a look of joy, secretly delighted that she might earn merit. Chapter 1368, Chapter 442, Slave Village No Way Out, Su Zinger's ingenious mind. Su Zinger got a definite answer, bowed her head in deep thought for a long time, and then quickly got up and went out, not bothering with Du Ru anymore. Su Zinger went to the other 2 annexes, woke up her 3rd brother Su Zhai and 2nd brother Su Su, and finally found her eldest brother Su Jing in the 1st annex. The 4 siblings gathered in the main hall of the annex. The 3 of them, Su Jing, were a bit bewildered. To achieve the goal set by Xia Hong, they're now eager to make use of every minute, busy with cultivation. They wondered why Su Zinger suddenly called for them. "That Uncle Hu came to see us today." After Su Zinger explained the situation of Hu Taijiao, the expressions of the 3 siblings slightly darkened. "Little sister, you're not thinking of rescuing this Hu Taijiao, are you? After all, we only traveled a short way with him. We know nothing about what he does or what trouble he got into, so there's no need for us to save him, right? Moreover, even if we wanted to save him, we can't do it alone. We'd have to rely on the master's reputation, which would only cause trouble for the master, wouldn't it?" Upon hearing their brother's words, Su Zinger did not rush to speak but first asked Su Jing, "Big brother, traveling with Uncle Hu and his brother, do you think they are bad people? Besides, would bad people drag along their wives and children, braving the cold snow, fearing to be pursued by bad guys, and rush towards the city?" The expressions of the 3 Su Jing brothers slightly froze at these words, their gazes dodging somewhat. Having traveled together, they had a deep impression of the 2 Hu Taijiang families. Not to mention, they heard Hu Taijiang mention escaping from slave status while in Yaku village. The 3 actually knew very well that the 2 Hu brothers were definitely not bad people. In fact, the calamity they were currently facing was most likely caused by trying to leave slave status, which they could also guess. The ultimate reason they said those words just now was that they didn't want to cause trouble for Xia Hong and didn't want to delay their own cultivation. "Little sister, many people in Evergreen Valley are in miserable situations. If you could save others with your own abilities, Big Brother would never stop you, but..." Big brother, who uncle's two families intentionally traveled with us from Yaku village. Don't you think the master could see through this? Su Jing interrupted, was momentarily stunned by his little sister's question. 8 days ago in Yaku village, Hu Taichuan had deliberately struck up a conversation with them and then set out with them for Qinghua City. Such actions were too intentional, even they could see it. How could Hong Yu not? However, what he couldn't understand was why Su Zinger asked this question now. Seeing the confusion in Su Jing's eyes, Su Zinger organized her thoughts and continued to ask. Big brother, second brother, and third brother, after spending more than 4 months with the master in Evergreen Valley, and then these 7 days traveling to Qinghua City, what do you think is the master's attitude towards these unregistered people in Evergreen Valley, as well as those with slave status and lowly status? Hearing this question, the 3 Su Jing brothers immediately recalled the 4+ months they spent with Xia Hong in Evergreen Valley and the conversation they had 7 days ago. Sympathy, compassion. Finally, it was the third brother Su Zhai who gave an answer. Su Jing and Su Su both nodded immediately upon hearing this. Exactly, it's sympathy and compassion. He saved the 4 of us and helped us change our destinies out of this emotion. The master has a kind of compassionate aura, and who uncle deliberately hitching a ride with us was something he could definitely see, and he didn't object, also out of this emotion. Su Zinger paused here, then continued. Before setting off from Evergreen Valley, the master once asked us about the 6-class system in Kaiku, whether it was good or not. You all should remember this. 7 days ago, before going into seclusion, the master even mentioned that Kaiku controls all cultivation resources, and among the 100,000 people in Evergreen Valley, there are many more in even more miserable situations than we are, and many have talents far exceeding ours. Little sister, are you suggesting? The third brother Su Zhai had now vaguely sensed something, interrupted Su Zinger, showed a slight shock, then lowered his voice and said, the master wants to train us to rebel against Kaiku. Upon hearing those last 3 words, the expressions of Su Jing and Su Su suddenly froze. Su Zinger heard this, her expression did not change at all, she simply nodded lightly and said solemnly, there are no gratuitous favors in this world. I've been thinking while in Evergreen Valley what the master really wants us to do. I also asked this question before, but the master always brushed it off by saying we were too weak and never gave an answer. Her eyes showed a gleam of determination as she continued. It wasn't until 7 days ago, after the master spoke those words before going into seclusion, that I really understood. What the master wants us to do in the future is to rebel against Kaiku. The last 3 words, rebel against Kaiku, were spoken by Su Zinger with not only certainty but also a certain steadfastness, as if these words were already engraved in her heart. Only this can make sense, otherwise there's no reason for him to invest so many resources in us. Those with talents surpassing ours are everywhere. If he really wanted to take apprentices, it's not just in Kaiku, but even Qinghua City probably has a bunch of geniuses lining up. Su Zinger clenched her fist and continued to patiently guide them. Of course, with our current strength, mentioning these 3 words would be nothing but a joke. But that doesn't mean we can't do anything. People with slave status, lowly status in Kaiku, and those previously unregistered like us are the ones we need to try our best to draw in. People like Uncle Hu are among them. Perhaps the impact of those 3 words was too great. The shock and dread on the faces of Su Jing and the others lasted for a long time. But remembering the 4+ months they spent closely with Xia Hong, the 3 still managed to regain their composure and clench their fists, evidently making a decision. Su Jing said solemnly, little sister, you've always been clever. Big brother also acknowledges your conjecture, but ultimately, these are all your own speculations. We can't be sure if the master genuinely has such intentions. Then let's use rescuing Uncle Hu as a test. Let's directly get him out and watch the master's reaction after he comes out of seclusion, and we'll know. Though she called it a test, the decisiveness in Su Zinger's words clearly showed that she had already come to a conclusion in her heart. The determination also influenced Su Jing and the others, who nodded heavily after exchanging glances. Then let's go with what you suggested. We'll head to the law enforcement department now to first understand what's going on with Uncle Hu's family. If they've truly been wronged, we'll get them out immediately. After Su Jing said this, he couldn't help but shake his head in his heart. The 4 siblings have lived in Evergreen Valley for more than 10 years and are too familiar with the petty village intrigues. Based on the conversation during the journey alone, they can already guess most of Hu Taijiang's situation. They could almost be certain that it was another old story of village tyrants oppressing slaves. Such things were all too common in the village-level camps in Evergreen Valley. With the decision made to rescue them, the four siblings, after a brief discussion, changed into their clothes and found the butler Zhou Qing to lead the way, setting off to the law enforcement department in the inner city to find someone. What the four siblings did not know was that when they walked out of the annex, in the quiet room behind the main building, Xia Hong, who was meditating with closed eyes, had a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. As expected, the fourth child is a bit more perceptive. She actually guessed my intentions quite well. Rebel against Kai Q. Rebel against Kai Q. Were these three words her own idea or something that already existed within Kai Q? Chapter 1369. Chapter 443. White Phoenix Forest of Snow Phoenix Mountain. Five-colored demon sound rabbit playing mind games with me. The KQ calendar year 297, February 15, daytime. 30 miles northeast of Qinghua City, there's a towering mountain named Snow Phoenix Mountain because a clan of Snow Phoenix cold beasts has long occupied the summit. The most famous things about Snow Phoenix Mountain, apart from the Snow Phoenix tribe, are the special plants known as ice sword trees. As their name suggests, ice sword trees have a single straight and erect elliptical trunk like a sword blade, without any branches. Their diameter is usually only 3 to 5 meters, but their height can reach an astonishing 1,000 meters or more. Sunlit during the day, the ice crystals attach to the outer layer emit a layer of cold light, providing a visual effect akin to a longsword piercing the sky, hence their name. Snow Phoenix Mountain itself is only 200 meters tall, but because it is covered with ice sword trees, its visual height is forcibly elevated 5 to 6 times. The Snow Phoenix is a unique flying cold beast of Qinghua City, most fond of perching atop ice sword trees. Its body is covered in icicle-like white feathers. It has a white hooked beak, 2 limbs on its belly and sharp, lethal claws at the end. A low-level Snow Phoenix has a wingspan of about 6 to 10 meters, intermediate ranges from 25 to 30 meters. Advanced ones, in combat mode, have a minimum wingspan of 80 meters and up to 120 meters. Interestingly, when perched atop ice sword trees, the Snow Phoenix likes to fully spread its wings, pairing with the ice sword tree, and from afar they resemble a hilt of a longsword. A masterpiece of nature akin to ice abyss. In regular places, how could such unique vegetation grow? Also, these Snow Phoenixes, relaxing with wings spread out, this entirely violates the biological habits of birds. The cold wind howled. Xia Hong stood atop an ice sword tree over 100 meters high, with the shattered star sword in his left hand and a Snow Phoenix only 2 meters long in his right. The Snow Phoenix's neck was completely severed, its beak sliced off, head drooping, evidently dead for quite some time. Xia Hong looked up at the heights of Snow Phoenix Mountain, filled with admiration for the natural wonders of Ice Abyss. A single 10, even 100 ice sword trees are nothing, but when thousands and tens of thousands are clustered together, covering the mountains, it becomes an incredible scene. The entire Snow Phoenix Mountain was filled with longswords piercing the heavens, like a perfectly shaped natural sword tomb, both perilous and uniquely beautiful, causing a mix of anxiety and inexplicable aspiration. Suddenly, Xia Hong vaguely sensed a few sharp gazes from the mountain summit focused on him, his face immediately flashing with caution. Beast King. No, this kind of dangerous sensation is beyond the Beast King level. Above Beast King level, it should be the 5 Luminaries realm or Emperor-level Fierce Beast. Having stayed in Qinghua City for almost a month, although unable to openly inquire, Xia Hong still gathered useful information through indirect means, such as the classification of cold beasts and deceitful monsters. Emperor-level Fierce Beast, also known as 5 Luminaries realm, because when cold beasts ascend to Emperor level, they generally correspond to the 5 elements: gold, wood, water, fire, and earth, while Emperor-level Fierce Beasts possess both core items for Xianyang-level breakthrough in Tribulation Body Realm and key resources for cultivation at Tribulation Body Realm. Xia Hong's brow furrowed as he glanced at the sky above Snow Phoenix Mountain one last time, suppressing the greed in his eyes before leaping off the ice sword tree to land below in White Phoenix Forest. Brother Hong is truly amazing, this advanced Snow Phoenix, its speed comparable to Xianyang level. Previously in Qinghua City, apart from the 4 great commanders, the 2 deputy city lords and my father, hunting one was impossible for anyone else, and now Brother Hong joins them. As Xia Hong landed, Kaimenjia noticed the advanced snow phoenix corpse in his hand and exclaimed in surprise, her slender and charming fox-like eyes fixated on Xia Hong, her gaze fluttering with admiration, almost writing the word adoration on her face. Ha ha ha, Miss Menjia flatters me, as mighty as it is. It's just an advanced cold beast. Trying to act arrogant in front of a princely heir is not that simple. Xia Hong responded with pride, basking in Kai Menjia's adoring gaze, laughed heartily and continued. But Miss Menjia, what exactly is the rabbit fur beast you mentioned? We've already ventured halfway up Snow Phoenix Mountain and haven't encountered it yet. Going further might not be as safe. Speaking of catching rabbit fur beast, it's partly Xia Hong's own doing. Last month, upon arriving in Qinghua City, Kai Yunju hosted a banquet in his honor, inviting almost all the city's dignitaries and aristocrats, and also his youngest daughter, Kai Menjia, to personally accompany him. With Xia Hong's abilities, he naturally deserved such treatment and felt little discomfort, but the banquet gradually took an unexpected turn. This Kai Menjia frequently sent covert glances towards him during the banquet which he couldn't dismiss, so to maintain his persona, he went along with the flow. Yet this decision to go with the flow marked the beginning of trouble. Kai Menjia is City Lord Kai Yunju's youngest daughter, incredibly talented and deeply cherished by her father, attracting many suitors. Among the 4 great commanders, 2 are suitors, not to mention numerous other city talents. Xia Hong, a newcomer, quickly won her favor, naturally becoming a thorn in her numerous suitors' sides, and thus they began to frequently challenge him at the banquet. Initially, Xia Hong wasn't inclined to react, but with the persona of a princely heir of powerful lineage already established, continued retreating would lead to suspicion, leaving him with no choice but to meet the challenges head-on. Chapter 1370, Chapter 443, White Phoenix Forest of Snow Phoenix Mountain, 5-colored demon sound rabbits playing mind games with me. 2. Kai Menjia happened to suggest going to White Phoenix Forest to catch rabbit fur beasts. During the banquet, the 2 commanders took the lead in provoking, using a ploy to deliberately taunt Xia Hong, saying he surely wouldn't dare to come. As a descendant of the Great Qin, what does this trifling Kaiku have that could scare me? Miss Menjia, rest assured, when the time comes to catch rabbit fur beasts next month, just let me know. Remembering the persona he put on during the banquet, Xia Hong couldn't help but feel amused himself. After that banquet, he firmly established his persona in front of Kai Yunju and the Xianyang-level figures in Qinghua City. A noble-born, exceptionally talented individual with Xianyang-level cultivation, but lacking experience and intelligence, easily provoked into anger. While Xia Hong contemplated, Kai Menjia's eyes twinkled slightly. She turned to look deeper into the White Phoenix Forest and replied with a smile, "Brother Hong, rest assured, these rabbit fur beasts love to eat snow phoenixes. We've already lured all the snow phoenixes in the outer area and slain quite a few. The rabbit fur beasts will appear soon." Upon hearing this, Xia Hong glanced at Kai Menjia from the corner of his eye, slightly furrowing his brow, then turned to look 2 kilometers ahead, where he couldn't help but reveal a trace of amazement on his face. A massive army of 1,000 soldiers clad in 10,000 forged iron armor was entangled in battle with 200 to 300 snow phoenixes soaring in the sky. Though the soldiers lacked the ability to fly, more than half wielded strong bows, continuously shooting at the snow phoenixes overhead. With the cooperation of another smaller contingent wielding long spears, they remarkably forced the snow phoenixes into retreat, occasionally managing to hunt a few down. This Kaiku's upper echelons are truly extravagant to the extreme. Just for the city lord's daughter to hunt, she can easily deploy a county guard army of 1,000. Upon realization, Xia Hong's expression grew serious. The extravagance was one aspect. From another perspective, Kai Menjia's actions could also indirectly demonstrate Kai Q's strength. All these soldiers possessed cold resistance level cultivation and wore uniform 10,000 forged iron armor. If the county guard army's strength is so potent, then how formidable must the town guard and silver scale armies be? The crucial point is that such a strong military's deployment permissions aren't even that high. According to Xia Hong's understanding, although Kai Menjia is a descendant of the Landgrave's lineage, there are at least several hundred Kai family progeny like her in all of Kaiku. Even if her status is relatively higher, it still underscores the issue. Whoosh! Brother Hong, there's a Beast King-level snow phoenix coming. A sharp sound pierced through the air, abruptly arriving from above. There was no need for Kai Menjia's reminder. Xia Hong instantly sensed it. He sharply turned his head toward the sky over the army, his pupils narrowing slightly. A gigantic snow phoenix nearly 100 meters long, with its wings fully spread spanning 400 or 500 meters, its massive body casting a shadow over the ground as it charged toward the army, blotting out the cold light of day, instantly covering all the soldiers. Evidently, this was a Beast King-level snow phoenix. Ahoo! As the snow phoenix neared the ground, only about a mile away, it suddenly retracted its wings and gave a powerful flap, sending a strong cold stream blowing toward the ground. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Hundreds of arrows shot into the sky by the county guard army were instantly blown to the ground by the airstream. Not just that, their bodies also kept retreating, and some soldiers who were unprepared were directly knocked down by the strong wind. The weakest among them, who were exposed to the cold wind, had their faces instantly covered with frost, freezing to death within 3 or 4 breaths. And the cold stream was just the first move of the Beast King-level snow phoenix. As the cold stream surged down, the snow phoenix's clear black and white eyes flashed with a few murderous glints of cold light, and its body suddenly trembled. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The myriad snow-white feathers on the snow phoenix descended like a storm toward the army below. The feathers traveled so fast that they appeared as silver needles, or even as white flashes to the naked eye. Seeing the terrified soldiers on the ground scatter like startled birds and beasts, Xia Hong's brow furrowed slightly. With his body suddenly rising in flames, he shot straight out, positioning himself in the path of the snow phoenix's flying needles, wielding the shattered star sword. Whoosh! The weight of the shattered star sword, combined with his own 41-jun strength, expanded the sword's air current in an instant to several miles in radius, forcibly deflecting 90% of the snow phoenix's feathers. Screech! The snow phoenix, seeing its attack thwarted, let out a furious cry. Its body suddenly transformed into a white light that blotted out the sky, fiercely grabbing toward Xia Hong below. Clang! Yet Xia Hong made no defensive move, continuing to wield the shattered star sword. The circular air current naturally couldn't stop the snow phoenix, but the sword's starlit veil was impenetrable, and the snow phoenix's talons not only failed to break through, but the impact sent it flying backward several 100 meters. After flapping its wings a dozen times, it managed to stabilize. Once the snow phoenix regained its balance, it turned to stare at Xia Hong again, its vertical pupils immediately filled with intense dread. 17-jun strength, golden bone level Beast King, but its flying ability is too strong, and its speed seems close to mine. It won't be easy to kill. Xia Hong perceived the snow phoenix's strength, his face still carrying a faint smile. He glanced up at the peak of Snow Phoenix Mountain, immediately dismissing the idea of killing it. Though the snow phoenix was enraged, it no longer dared to recklessly charge at Xia Hong. It looked down, fixing a deadly gaze on Xia Hong below, seemingly contemplating something. Chapter 1371, Chapter 443, White Phoenix Forest of Snow Phoenix Mountain, 5-colored demon sound rabbit trying to outwit me. Eh? Suddenly, Xia Hong sensed something, turning his head toward the depths of Snow Phoenix Mountain, an expression of surprise crossing his face. 3 kilometers to the east, there were 2 Xianyang-level auras. And both were going all out, clearly trying to deal with something. Xia Hong looked at the Beast King-level snow phoenix in front of him and the hundreds of snow phoenixes that had not yet retreated, then turned again to glance at Kai Menjia on the ground. Noticing her gaze occasionally shifting toward the deeper area, he pondered for a moment before slightly furrowing his brow. He did not look again at the Beast King-level snow phoenix, but instead sneered, the flames around his body suddenly expanding into a strong light, heading straight east. Screech! As Xia Hong suddenly flew toward the east, the snow phoenix was obviously caught off guard. However, it quickly sensed something, letting out a long, plaintive cry, and abruptly pursued Xia Hong's trail. The hundreds of advanced snow phoenixes in midair heard the cry, swiftly changing course to follow to the east. He's been discovered. Uncle Bai, quickly come with me to help. Upon seeing Xia Hong and the snow phoenix's movements, Kai Menjia's expression immediately changed. Ignoring the large army in front of her, she shouted and quickly dashed towards the depths of Snow Phoenix Mountain in the east. As she finished speaking, a strong light shot out from the forest behind her, rushing ahead of her toward the east. Buzz! 3 kilometers into the depths of Snow Phoenix Mountain to the east, a strange and unique melody suddenly sounded from within a mud slope. The moment the sound emerged, a sword and a blade, two beams of strong light, abruptly rushed toward the mud slope. Boom! The mud slope, barely 100 meters in diameter and only 3 to 4 meters high, exploded violently as both the blade and sword chi struck it simultaneously, flattening it in an instant. As the slope was blasted open, a bizarre giant rabbit was revealed inside. This rabbit, stretching 5 meters long, was truly enormous. The key thing was, its face had only a nose and mouth, shockingly lacking eyes. Moreover, it was not injured at all, clearly born without eyes rather than blinded later. Its bizarre features did not end there. This giant rabbit surprisingly had 5 tails of gold, green, blue, red, and yellow. Humming, its 5 tails swayed in the wind, constantly colliding to produce a peculiar and unique melody. Despite the chilling wind whistling around, the sound was exceedingly clear and strangely compelling. Finally found it, I knew it was hiding here. Don't waste time. As agreed, whoever gets the magic sound rabbit will marry Miss Mengia. The voices of the two men who wielded the sword and blade spoke simultaneously. The two appeared to be in their early 30s, youthful in appearance, both clad in 10,000 forged silver armor, with a fierce aura between their brows. Upon speaking, the man holding the blade did not wait for a response and charged straight at the magic sound rabbit. The man with the sword was not to be outdone, simultaneously dashing toward the magic sound rabbit. Humming, though the magic sound rabbit had no eyes, the urgent melody produced by its 5 colliding tails seemed to express an angry emotion. As the sword and blade neared, the magic sound rabbit's 5 tails collided sharply, producing a clear, explosive sound like a silver bottle suddenly shattering. Ding! The two silver-armored youths, dressed like generals, suddenly froze. Yet their freeze lasted less than half a moment, quickly recovering as they slashed their sword and blade toward the magic sound rabbit. Whoosh! However, a strong light descended from above, beating them to it. Playing mind games with me. Xia Hong's sneer rang out, causing the expressions of the two silver-armored youths to suddenly stiffen. Chapter 1372, Chapter 444, Ancient Zither acquired, true colors revealed, Landgrave's attention. Just when Xia Hong noticed Kai Menjia turning her head to look deeper into the White Phoenix forest, he became suspicious. Though he was dealing with the Beast King-level Snow Phoenix, he always kept an eye on the direction deeper inside. Therefore, once he detected 2 Xianyang-level auras making a move deeper in, he immediately realized he had been set up by Kai Menjia. The true purpose of this woman coming to the White Phoenix forest was the thing that those 2 Xianyang-level individuals were dealing with in the depths, whereas his main role in her scheme was to distract the Snow Phoenix flock. Of course, the most important task was to deal with the strongest Beast King-level Snow Phoenix. If the previous thoughts were somewhat speculative, then upon seeing Lu Xinghai and Meng Zizhu, Xia Hong was certain. Lu Xinghai and Meng Zizhu were the 2 young silver-armored generals holding a sword and saber. Their identities were far from simple. Firstly, their origins. Besides the Landgrave Kaiku family, there were 6 noble families, including the Lu and Meng families. Secondly, their strength and talent. Both possessed Xianyang-level power and were not even 60 years old. Not just in Kaiku, they would be considered top geniuses across the 4 vassals. Thirdly, their status. Qinghua City had a total of 10,000 troops, commanded by the city lord and the 4 great commanders, which included Lu and Meng. Coincidentally, during a banquet at the city lord mansion a month ago, it was these 2 who vied with Xia Hong over Kai Menjia, eventually leading others to provoke Xia Hong, making him agree to accompany Kai Menjia to the White Phoenix forest. These people conspired with Kai Menjia to stage a show. The earlier intrigue was all an act to lead me here to draw the attention of the Beast King-level Snow Phoenix. From the moment he saw Lu and Meng, Xia Hong instantly understood everything. There was hardly any surprise on his face. The provocation used by Lu and Meng was easy to see through, and Xia Hong merely complied to maintain his persona as the princely heir from a powerful foreign fief. What he didn't expect was the setup by these people, starting so early. The act began from the moment of intrigue. Unfortunately, their act failed now. Playing mind games with me. The giant rabbit was hit by the shattering divine light. Its body instantly stiffened on the spot, then shattered like a porcelain vase, cracking and falling apart, leaving only 5 colorful tails standing firmly behind. In less than 3 to 4 breaths, the giant rabbit's body completely disintegrated, and the 5 tails slowly stretched and contracted, finally exploding with a burst of strong light. Once the strong light dissipated, the giant rabbit's body vanished completely, leaving only a 2-meter-long 5-stringed ancient zither, with its strings colors corresponding to the rabbit's 5 tails: gold, green, blue, red, and yellow. Make a move. Seeing the ancient zither, Lu Xinghai immediately acted. Meng Zizhu, upon hearing it, was understandably unwilling to fall behind. Both ignored Xia Hong above them and reached out to seize the zither. Ka! A burst of sword light struck down from above. Lu and Meng were aware of it but evidently underestimated Xia Hong's strength. Their brows furrowed slightly, yet they continued with their actions. When the sword light descended, it sliced open the flesh on their right hands instantaneously, the cracked bones emitting a snapping sound. The powerful force made their bodies collapse in front of the zither, revealing fear and shock on their faces. Dare to snatch from me, where did you get the audacity? Xia Hong's body abruptly descended, standing 3 or 4 meters above their heads. As he spoke in a low voice, he lifted the shattered star sword, placing it against their necks, completely unrestrained in his murderous intent. The scene seemed new to them, and they appeared stunned. Brother Hong, Brother Lu and Brother Meng are helping Minjia catch the rabbit fur beast. What are you doing? Kai Minjia arrived belatedly, her eyebrows slightly furrowing upon seeing the scene, but soon she feigned innocence. Xia Hong turned his head to look at Kai Minjia, his expression bordering between amusement and seriousness until her behavior became awkward. Then, he shifted his gaze past her to the black-clad elder behind her, quickly dismissing what he saw with indifference. Since they are helping you, I will spare their lives. Xia Hong responded with a cold laugh, not exposing Kai Minjia. He sheathed the shattered star sword and took the 5-colored ancient zither from the ground. Seeing Xia Hong take the zither, Kai Minjia's pupils showed an anxious tint. She quickly took 2 steps forward, using her seductive voice to implore melodiously to Xia Hong, Brother Hong, the rabbit fur beast is no longer found. Can you let Minjia have this zither? Xia Hong turned to Kai Minjia, revealing an incredulous look. At this stage she was still acting. Was his debauchee persona too well established, or was the woman simply too naive? For a moment, Xia Hong lost even the desire to be angry. Halatu! He suddenly laughed a few times. Only then did he raise the zither in his hand, teasingly asking Kai Minjia, do you truly desire this? Kai Minjia could not miss the mockery in Xia Hong's tone, and her previously alluring expression instantly froze. Hong Prince, my lady once publicly declared, whoever helps her catch the 5-colored magic sound rabbit shall earn the right to propose to her. The Hong Prince is a foreign fief noble, and the lady is a descendant of Landgrave Kai Qiu. If due to this rabbit an alliance is formed today, a legendary tale could unfold. Chapter 1373. Chapter 444. Ancient zither in hand, true colors revealed, the Landgrave's attention. Standing behind Kai Minjia, the old man in black finally couldn't stand still anymore. He stepped out and addressed Xia Hong with what he considered a kind gesture. As he finished speaking, Kai Minjia showed a trace of girlish shyness, as if a girl's secret had been revealed. Your name is Bai Jiangyuan, a retainer of the Kai family. That night at the City Lord Mansion's banquet, Lord Kai seemed to have introduced you to me, if I'm not mistaken. The old man in black, namely Bai Jiangyuan, immediately nodded and clasped his hands. Xia Hong's calm tone made him develop some erroneous thoughts, and he even showed a hint of a smile. Yet in the next moment, Xia Hong's tone abruptly changed. Who do you think you are? Dare to presumptuously discuss my marriage? With my strength, status, and standing in your Kai Qiu feudal town, who is there that I cannot wed, who would dare not to wed me? You truly dare to dream of being eligible to marry me? Xia Hong turned directly to Kai Minjia when asking the final question. Hearing this, Kai Minjia's shy expression stopped abruptly. She looked up at Xia Hong, her face instantly flushed red, feeling unprecedented shame and anger. She turned her head away, screamed orders at Bai Jiangyuan beside her. Kill him for me. I want him dead, I want him dead. Exposed true nature, is that it? Thinking back to when he first arrived and was playing along with this woman's games, Xia Hong felt sickened and then turned to look at Bai Jiangyuan, who was slowly approaching him, expressing utter speechlessness. This Kai Yunju truly values face. Hong Prince, while away from home, one must practice restraint. Bai may be a few years older than you, so today let me teach. Shut up. Xia Hong had no patience for Bai Jiangyuan's nonsense, drew his sword immediately, and swung a sword edge toward him. Whoosh! The sword edge shot straight at the chest. Seeing Xia Hong's defiant nature, Bai Jiangyuan showed a hint of anger, drew the big saber from his waist, and slashed a bright red saber edge, meeting Xia Hong's sword edge head-on. Of those referred to as retainers of the Kai family, there were only over 20 in the entire Kai Qiu, and Bai Jiangyuan was one of them. The title of retainer was not merely a symbol of status, it was a testament to strength. His power reached 17 jun, and in the entire Qinghua city only the city lord Kai Yunju could surpass him, a mere foreign princely heir, a greenhorn, despite having been invited by the city lord, had no right to act wild in front of him. Bang! All of Bai Jiangyuan's mental activities halted the instant his saber met Xia Hong's sword edge, and alongside it, his decaying face froze. The bright red saber edge he slashed with full force crumbled before Xia Hong's sword edge like paper, disintegrating in barely an instant. After disintegration, the remaining sword edge struck his chest fiercely, causing a loud bang. Bai Jiangyuan exerted full force to stabilize his stance, preventing himself from being blown backward, but the sword chi tore open his chest's flesh, hitting his internal organs and bones. Puh! A mouthful of reversed blood spewed out. Bai Jiangyuan's already decayed face added a few more traces of decrepitude. Looking up again at Xia Hong in front of him, his expression mirrored that of Lu Xinghai and Meng Zizhu moments ago, showing no difference except astonishment and terror. His body even trembled uncontrollably. Meanwhile, Lu Meng, clutching their severed hands, saw Bai Jiangyuan wounded with one sword. Their expression became even more fearful. They dared not even make a sound. Trying to rely on age in front of me, you qualify. Xia Hong retorted angrily, causing Bai Jiangyuan's trio, along with the now clear-headed Kai Menjia, to shudder. Seeing the fear on their faces, Xia Hong's expression became even more disdainful. Then looking at Kai Menjia, he shook his head, laughed from anger and said, I call Lord Kai as uncle out of respect for his age, not his strength. Letting you call me Brother Hong is out of face for Lord Kai. Otherwise, with your 31 jun of strength, you wouldn't even qualify to be my maid. Xia Hong had embodied arrogance to the fullest. The disdain and pride in his words, coupled with his domineering gaze overlooking all, made Kai Menjia show a trace of inferiority, finally lowering her head slowly. Without strength, bow your head and be humble. Truly provoking an unspeakable existence only brings ruin upon yourself. Ice Abyss doesn't lack feudal towns like Kai Qiu. If Lord Landgrave were present, I'd bow and lower my head, but you, what are you? With a cold snort from Xia Hong, his eyes inadvertently glanced to the left, then transformed into a glowing light, flying straight toward the southwest direction of Qinghua City. The four stood in place, silent for a long time. Fear and shock were etched deep on their faces, evidently shaken by Xia Hong's words. City Lord! City Lord! After more than 10 breaths, a white figure appeared quietly on the left side, exactly as Xia Hong had just named City Lord Kai Yunju, and Bai Jiangyuan, Lu, and Meng quickly bowed in salute. Father! Kai Menjia was the last to notice, but her emotional breakdown was the fastest. Seeing her father had arrived, she finally had a pillar to rely on, cried out and directly fell into his arms. Seeing the young daughter crying like rain, Kai Yunju naturally felt a bit heartbroken, gently patted her back, shook his head softly saying, During last month's banquet I already told you. Were there any fools among the powerful clans and vassals? This Hong Yu may appear muddled, but in fact extremely shrewd. Your little schemes he only sees through but says nothing. For such a person, if he could truly be manipulated by you, how could his elders let him come out? Father, Lord Landgrave already said, around Mo River, there's barely a Great Qin feudal town. This Hong Yu is lying. That so-called Great Qin feudal town must be fabricated by him. Kai Menjia turned her head towards Xia Hong's departing direction, showing an edge of hysterical hatred in her eyes, continued, Father, did you hear what he said just now? This Hong Yu's arrogance is outrageous. He doesn't even regard you in his eyes. You should strike. There was nothing wrong with what he said just now. Kai Yunju suddenly interrupted his daughter with a deep voice. Kai Menjia froze upon hearing this, while Bai Jiangyuan, Meng Zizhu, and Lu Xinghai's expressions also froze. Then they looked at Kai Yunju, full of confusion. They didn't know which words of Xia Hong Kai Yunju was referring to. He said respecting my age rather than my strength, and there was no issue with those words. The night of entering the city, I was the one defeated. Bang! Kai Yunju's words instantly ignited a storm within Kai Menjia and her trio's hearts. Their pupils shook, looking at Kai Yunju, confirming he wasn't lying. Expressions trembled uncontrollably. Though nobody knew the outcome of last month's battle outside the city gates. Yet in the whole Qinghua city, no one would assume Kai Yunju lost, not even likely believing it was a draw. After all, this is Kai Yunju, Kaikiu's sword saint, Mo River's 4 vassals, ranked among the top 50 Xianyang level strength, unexpectedly defeated by the unknown Hong Yu. How is this possible? Even Kai Yunju took considerable time to accept his defeat's result. He took a deep breath, turned to his daughter and Bai Jiangyuan's trio, opened his mouth solemnly. Though Lord Landgrave personally confirmed last month there isn't any feudal town named Great Qin around Mo River, he also mentioned Ice Abyss is vast, who knows the circumstances in other areas. This Hong Yu is young, yet possesses such terrifying strength. Who knows what his true background is? As long as he doesn't rouse trouble in Kai Q, we needn't bother with him. Since it's a journey he'll eventually leave, just keep an eye on him, prevent any incidents. After saying this, Kai Yunju paused, seeming to want to say more. But seeing the hatred in his daughter's eyes, the words were swallowed back down. Should he dare cause trouble and stir adversity, as Landgrave, I will personally deal with him, just monitor his movements at all times. Recalling Lord Landgrave's words, Kai Yunju shook his head. He understood his youngest daughter's temperament well, overly pampered since childhood, unable to bear grievances. Were the words from Lord Landgrave relayed to her, more mischief would likely ensue afterward. Chapter 1374, Chapter 445, Ordeal and Gratitude, Idle Move, Trial and Opportunity. KQ Calendar Year 297, February 15, night. Qinghua City, guest residence at Hong Mansion. Hu Taijong hurried in from outside with a worried expression, and upon seeing a burly figure practicing with a spear in the courtyard, his face instantly lit up with joy. Taichuan, have you recovered? The person practicing with the spear turned his head, revealing an extremely terrifying face. His lower jaw had been mostly sliced away, and 7 or 8 long scars resembling giant centipedes were irregularly distributed across his face. Some slanted from the left brow to the right cheek, others stretched from above the left ear to the forehead, several were across the mouth area. A truly horrifying sight. Not only his face, but Hu Taichuan instinctively opened his mouth to speak, revealing only a small stub of a tongue. He uttered a few sounds, realizing he had lost the ability to speak, and then responded with a nod and a smile, indicating his injuries were fine. Yet with that face, every attempt at a smile appeared eerie. Hu Taijong wasn't disgusted, but seeing his brother's ghastly face, a deep-seated hatred flashed in his eyes. He first clenched his fist slightly, then immediately relaxed, forcing a smile. That's great. In a couple of days, let's go together to thank the master for his kindness. Hu Taichuan nodded, walked up to Hu Taijiang, and gently shook his head, offering some comfort by pulling on his brother's arm. Their brotherly understanding was strong, and even though the younger brother said nothing, Hu Taijiang immediately understood his intentions. His initially relaxed expression tensed up, and the hatred in his eyes reappeared, suppressed only after a long while as he spoke in a deep voice. Don't worry, elder brother won't act rashly. I once thought the Zhang family only controlled the Red Tiger Ridge area, perhaps even dominated the Red Fox Ridge, but didn't expect them to have influence in Qinghua City, causing you to end up like this. It's all my fault. By the end, Hu Taijiang's face was full of regret and guilt, his voice trembling slightly due to his overwhelming remorse. The dream they had been planning for years of escaping their status shattered the moment. They entered the subordinate bureau in Qinghua City on the 17th of last month. Hu Taijiang was from a place called Red Tiger Ridge in the central Evergreen Valley area, consisting of 5 villages, one of which was Tiger Tail Village where he lived. Even though they lost their father early on, the brothers were blessed with good cultivation talent and an intense fighting spirit, breaking through to the cold resistance level at a young age. To seek greater development, they registered as lowly status as soon as they broke through and started working as porters, transporting goods in the Red Tiger Ridge area. Being a porter was considered a lowly occupation and wasn't illegal for them to pursue. Originally, their lives could have continued smoothly, but everything changed after they married. Their wives, Fang Jing and Wang Qing, were servants from the household of Zhang Yiking, the leader of Tiger Tail Village. In fact, their marriages were arranged by Zhang Yiking. At that time, both were considered promising young men in the village, lowly matched with slaves, neither was disgraced, and both parties were overjoyed. The catalyst for everything began when the brothers had offspring. According to the KQ 6-class system, statuses were inherited. Whatever the parents were, the children would be, at least until they entered the registry at 15 years old. Under these rules, the brothers, 5 children, could only inherit slave or lowly status, which was unacceptable to them. Hardworking and capable, with strong hunting abilities, the brothers diligently saved money over the years. They approached Zhang Yiking expressing their desire to free their wives from their status. Zhang Yiking agreed readily, promising as fellow villagers that if the brothers helped him hunt for 2 years without pay, he would hand over Fang Jing and Wang Qing's slave status without charging them a cent. But when the 2-year term ended, things took a sudden downturn. Zhang Yiking shamelessly reneged on the deal, infuriating the brothers who already had enough money and were justified in their actions. They boldly stole their wives' registration books, intending to escape to Qinghua City and resolve their status first, making their escape plan irreversible. Their dream of escaping shattered from then on. Rushing from Tiger Tail Village to Qinghua City, they never encountered Zhang Yiking or anyone chasing them, leading Hu Taijiang to believe they hadn't been discovered or had a good head start. It wasn't until they were actually in Qinghua City that he realized Zhang Yiking had never intended to pursue them. He had long since made ample preparations in the city. On the 17th of last month, to be cautious, Hu Taijiang intended to go with his family to the subordinate bureau for their status change. But his brother, Hu Taichuan, volunteered and went instead. Having no other choice, Hu Taijiang could only watch from the shadows. Unexpectedly, as soon as his brother entered, their entire family was immediately captured. Hu Taijiang was naturally in a panic, and found out through inquiries that the Zhang family from Red Tiger Ridge was influential even in Qinghua City. The captain of the 5th Law Enforcement Team, Zhang Yiping, turned out to be Zhang Yiking's cousin. Upon learning this, he was devastated and filled with despair. Not only was their escape dream in ruins, but now the safety of his brother and family was also at stake. In desperation, Hu Taijiang turned to the recently rumored miraculous Hong Yu, treating him as their last hope. Chapter 1375, Chapter 445, Encounter and Gratitude, Idle Moves, Trial and Opportunity 2. So on the day of the 25th last month, at the very last moment when Zhang Yiping was leading men in pursuit, he risked his life to run to the gates of the Hong mansion, hoping that Hong Yu would, for the sake of having traveled together for a while, save them. This was not just madness, it could practically be called wishful delusion. Hu Taijiang hadn't held out much hope at all in his heart. Whether Hong Yu even remembered him was a question, and even if he did, given the other party's current status in the city, it was basically impossible for him to spare them a glance. But the result was far beyond his expectations. Hong Yu didn't come, but his 4 disciples did. As soon as Su Jing and his 3 siblings arrived, the people from the law enforcement department almost, without even asking the reason, let their whole family go. And after 8 or 9 days of investigation, they even came to the conclusion that Zhang Yiking was in the wrong. 10 days ago, they had obediently sent the slave status papers of Fang Jing and Wang Qing to the Hong mansion. They even personally delivered them to Hu Taijiang's hand. Thinking back to 10 days ago, to Zhang Yiping's expression, so obsequious it was sickening, when he placed his wife's slave status papers into his hand, the flames of anger in Hu Taijiang's eyes not only failed to fade in the slightest, they instead burned all the fiercer. Especially when he saw the wounds on his younger brother's face, and thought of how his tongue had been cut out alive in the prison, and how he could no longer speak. His breathing grew heavier, and the hatred in his heart became even deeper and more intense. In those days when they were taken away by the law enforcement team, not only did Hu Taichuan suffer inhuman torture, their wives Fang Jing and Wang Qing were the same. And the children that the 2 brothers each had, both not yet 1 year old, were also all frozen to death in the prison, because the law enforcement team took away the items that kept them warm. One bloody debt after another, never mind those few people of the law enforcement team. Even if the city lord of Qinghua City, Kai Yunju, came personally to fawn and apologize, it still could not wash away the hatred in Hu Taijiang's heart. Taichuan, we can go to the subordinate bureau to remove our slave status at any time now. No one will stand in our way anymore. But right now, there's a better path in front of us. We don't have to rush to shed our status. As long as the Hong Prince is willing to accept us as slaves, you and I will be as good as ascending to the heavens in a single step. Zhang Yiping, Zhang Yiking, and that lot from the law enforcement team, each and every one of them will pay with their lives. Hu Taichuan had long since seen through his elder brother's thoughts, so upon hearing these words he showed no surprise at all, merely nodded heavily in response. If they could become Hong Yu's slaves, never mind commoner status, even if you gave them military status, they wouldn't look twice at it. It's just a pity that we've been living in the mansion for 20 days now, and the Hong Prince has been in seclusion the whole time. We still haven't seen him. Although Miss Su hasn't set a deadline for how long we can stay, if we keep living here like this, it's hard to guarantee that we won't cause the Hong Prince to take a dislike to us. We'll wait another 5 days at most. If we still don't see him, we'll go to the subordinate bureau and get our slave status removed first. Excited as he was, when he thought of how they had stayed in the mansion for so long without even seeing Hong Yu's face, a wry smile surfaced on Hu Taijiang's face. He shook his head and finally set himself a 5-day limit. It wasn't hard to understand. With Hong Yu's status and position, the people in the whole of Qinghua City who wanted to be his slaves were probably too many to count. Leaving others aside, just among the servants in this Hong mansion, those stronger than the two of them were everywhere. Did these servants not want to become Hong Yu slaves? Why should Hong Yu pick the two of them? You two, the Lord has summoned you. Come with me at once. However, just like when he had gone to the gates of the Hong mansion to beg for help, Hu Taijiang's predictions about how things would develop were once again completely off. Just as he had practically given up the idea of becoming Hong Yu's slave, a hurried shout from housekeeper Zhou Qing came from the gate of the side courtyard. Hong Yu was summoning the two of them. Hu Taijiang's expression trembled sharply. He turned his head and met his younger brother's eyes. In each other's gaze, they both saw wild joy. Please wait a moment, housekeeper Zhou, we're coming right away. Hu Taijiang headed straight for the courtyard gate. Hu Taichuan followed closely behind. As soon as they stepped out of the courtyard, they saw a hint of envy in housekeeper Zhou Qing's eyes. The brothers were a bit puzzled. It was just a meeting, was that worth such a look? All right, you can go in. But soon enough they understood. Zhou Qing, the housekeeper of the Hong mansion, actually didn't have the qualification to enter the main building. When the two brothers realized this, their hearts grew even more excited. They hurriedly quickened their pace and walked into the building. Before they even got close, they saw the figure sitting upright in the main hall. With a thump, both of them dropped to their knees and banged their heads hard on the floor toward the seat of honor. They kowtowed over a dozen times before Hu Taijiang on the left finally raised his head, his face full of gratitude, and said in a tone of utmost reverence, "If not for you, my lord, my entire household would surely have perished in the prison. For your life-saving grace, even 9 deaths would not suffice to repay it. If you do not despise us, my lord, my entire family, even unto our descendants for generations to come, are willing to be your slaves, to serve by your side forever. If you command us to cross seas of blades and mountains of fire, we will obey without frown. Should I dare so much as wrinkle my brow, I will kill myself before you on the spot." Lo! When Hu Taijiang finished speaking, Hu Taichuan at his side also let out a sound, then thumped his chest heavily and slammed his head onto the floor with a loud crack. Clearly, he was expressing the same resolve as his elder brother. "No need to be so anxious. I've known about Zinger rescuing you for a while now." Xia Hong had just returned from Snow Phoenix Mountain, a few snowflakes still clinging to his clothes. Hearing the brother's words, he first shook his head. Seeing that the once vigorous Hu Taichuan from a month ago had turned into this horrifying sight, he couldn't help but let out a soft sigh. "Zinger came to see me 5 days ago. I basically know everything about you two brothers, and I more or less understand what you're thinking right now." With a smile on his face, Xia Hong went on, "Honestly, a mere Zhang family from Red Tiger Ridge is nothing to me. Even if I forced my hand to wipe them out, Kai Q wouldn't be able to do anything to me. However..." At this point he paused, then suddenly changed the subject and asked, "You two brothers possess hardly anything, and your talent can only be called average. To be blunt, you're not even qualified to be my slaves. So to wipe out the Zhang family on your behalf is out of the question." At these words, the expressions of the Hu brothers instantly dimmed. Especially Hu Taijiang, though he had been mentally prepared, to have his intentions so plainly laid bare by Xia Hong face to face still caused a trace of despair to flicker in his eyes. Without borrowing Xia Hong's power, there was not the slightest chance for them to take revenge. "But I can point you to a bright path. Very soon, As Xia Hong continued speaking, the two brothers snapped their heads up to look at him, their eyes filled with hope and yearning. Smiling, Xia Hong took a beast skin roll out from his robe and flicked it forward. The beast skin roll unfurled in midair, and by the time it floated down in front of the Hu brothers, it had completely spread open. They lowered their heads to look and saw at once that it was a map of Evergreen Valley, with a certain location marked in the deep southern part of the valley. After seeing what was on the map, they raised their heads to look at Xia Hong, confusion in their eyes. Revenge still has to be taken by your own hands. The strongest of that Zhang family in Red Tiger Ridge only has a strength in the low 30s. Faced with such a weak enemy, if I have to step in to settle them, then you two brothers have no value to me at all. Never mind taking you in as slaves. Just for Su R rescuing you, I'd have to reproach her later. Hearing Xia Hong's words, their expressions tensed, but they could tell there was more to come, so they simply stayed silent and listened on. What you lack is nothing more than time and resources. With my name backing you, the Zhang family absolutely won't dare lay a finger on you in the short term. At the location marked on this map, I've left behind a large cache of cultivation resources. How exactly you use them, and in what way, is up to you. Whether you can rely on yourselves to wipe out the Zhang family will be my test for you. As long as you can do it, I will accept the two of you. Here Xia Hong paused again, then continued. Of course, if wiping out the Zhang family brings about some larger trouble, I will personally resolve it for you. Well, do you have the guts to take this test? Hu Taijung looked at the location marked on the map, then raised his head to look up at Xia Hong. Once he was sure the man wasn't joking, he thought for a moment, and without the slightest hesitation, nodded heavily. Of course we do. This isn't a test, it's a chance you're giving us, my lord. Well? Hu Taichuan directly kowtowed in response, his face full of excitement. Chapter 1376. Chapter 446. Arrangements, Growing Strength and Departure, the Grand Sight of Hongmen. The Hu brothers can only be considered a casual move. Both of them have intermediate battle bodies. The older brother Hu Taijung is 38 years old this year, and the younger brother Hu Taichuan is 36, with a strength of just over 5 main. With this aptitude, it's basically certain that the investment and return are not going to be equivalent, so under normal circumstances, there's no need to support them. If Xia Hong were to make an exception for them, the reason might be fate. Last month they traveled together. Although the Hu brothers took the initiative to approach him, it was enough to make Xia Hong remember them, so it counts. Besides fate, it's also possible that the brothers' determination to change their social status is a reason. In simple terms, it's ambition. The disaster they suffered was ultimately to remove their own lowly status and their wives' slave status. Normally, they should feel some regret after enduring so much inhuman torture and suffering. But according to Xia Hong's observation, during their 20 days at Hong Mansion, the brothers did not complain even once, not just them, but their wives Fang Jing and Wang Qing as well. This proves that even after suffering so much, the brothers wholeheartedly acknowledge and persist in their actions to shed their status. This determination to rise above mediocrity and risk their lives to change their status and destiny is rare not only in Kai Q, but in Great Xia as well. Of course, not complaining does not mean there is no hatred. The brothers harbor deep hatred toward the Zhang family of Red Tiger Ridge and the law enforcement team of Qinghua City, which has penetrated to their bones. This is the core reason why Xia Hong supports them. Last August, after leaving the bone-eroding path, he lived with Su Jing and her 4 siblings in the depths of Evergreen Valley for over 4 months to heal. During that time, he hunted countless advanced cold beasts, partly for the siblings, cultivation resources, and to understand the cold beast situation in Evergreen Valley. Before setting off last month, he only took 5 Beast King-level skeleton sets and stored the rest in that cave. Those supplies naturally meant nothing to him, but to the Hu brothers, they were a definite fortune. Of course, whether the brothers can use them properly is another matter. Xia Hong gave some instructions and then dismissed the two. If they can really rise with these supplies, then they're both promising. They might not stir up Kai Q, but Evergreen Valley should see some impact. If neither of them has the ability, these supplies will only bring them calamity. Risks and opportunities coexist. It's all up to them. After the two departed, Xia Hong returned to the meditation room in the main building to continue sitting on the Enlightenment Lotus platform and checked the remaining Dan medicine. 6 washing marrow pills, 13 top-grade bone shedding pills. In 1 month about 1/3 was used, similar to my previous Jade bone situation. Still needs 2 more months to be used up. Kaiyunju was also present just now. I reckon he's warned too. They shouldn't dare to provoke me randomly anymore. Setting off to Lin Chu County in 2 months would have some assurance. Fabricating a false origin and bluffing to ensure my safety is somewhat helpless, but it's the only choice I have. Before understanding the specific strength of the Tribulation body realm, there's certainly no courage to go to Kaiku Town, but Lin Chu County, which is 1 level lower, is feasible. Furthermore, I need to come up with another false identity. Although the identity of a Dakin prince is intimidating, it also limits my actions, like being unable to buy things freely. Actions need to match identity. Since the fabricated Great Qin feudal town has such strength, naturally it should have better things than Kaiku. Last month, in Treasure Pavilion, he wanted to buy many items, but to avoid suspicion, he pretended with disdain and barely bought anything. Even when purchasing washing marrow pills, bone-burning pills, and top-grade bone-shedding pills, he used for research as a reason. The bone-burning pill is okay, but the washing marrow pill and bone-shedding pill are truly useful to him. If possible, he would have bought more. It's useless to think now. We'll figure out something when I arrive at Lin Chu County. After a moment of thought but unable to find a solution, Xia Hong simply stopped pondering. As there's enough Dan medicine for 2 months, cultivation comes first. He closed his eyes and quickly entered the cultivation state. As Xia Hong was closing himself off for cultivation, the Hu brothers also started their final preparations before leaving the mansion. Hu Taijong first found the steward Zhou Qing, had him take the entire family to the subordinate bureau to remove their slave and lowly status, and then obtained civilian status. The money for their status change was originally taken by the law enforcement team, but after Su Jing and her siblings rescued them last month, it was immediately returned. With Zhou Qing's appearance and the grand reputation of Hong Mansion, the subordinate bureau dared not obstruct them. After changing their status, Hu Taijong did not rush to leave but sent his family back to Hong Mansion, leaving them behind. He took his brother Hu Taichuan to Qing Valley together. No one knew what the brothers were doing in Qing Valley, but after just 7 days, they returned to Qinghua City with a large cart, pulling straight into Treasure Pavilion without even visiting the subordinate bureau. On February 23 during the day, the brothers finally returned to Hong Mansion. Back at the side courtyard of Hong Mansion, they didn't see their own wives or family but went directly to the meditation room, where Hu Taijiang opened a bundle, revealing more than 30 pill bottles of various sizes inside. Chapter 1377, Chapter 446, Arrangements, Power, Growth, and Departure, Splendors of Hongmen, Part 2. Seeing the pill bottle, the 2 brothers' expressions immediately turned excited. I never expected that the materials left by the Lord in that cave would be so abundant. There are 72 sets of jade bone, 17,000 jin of high-level beast meat, and nearly 8,000 jin of high-level beast blood. The total value is as high as 15 million taels of silver. Hu Taijong couldn't help but sigh, then opened the pill bottle, inhaling the aroma of the spirit pills inside, his eyes revealing a trace of intoxication. He then slightly vibrated with excitement and said, 25 bottles of Jade Yang pill used for cultivation at the cold resistance level, a total of 300 pills. 8 bottles of Yang breaking pill used for cultivation at the peak of the cold resistance level, a total of 80 pills. This batch of Dan medicine is enough for both of us to cultivate for 3 years. The most critical thing is, due to the reputation of Hong Mansion, they entirely don't need to explain the source of this batch of Dan medicine. Moreover, within a short time, no one would dare to have designs on them. When I went to the Treasure Pavilion, I said these were bought for the 4 young masters of the mansion. Normally, people wouldn't believe that we could come up with so many things, so as long as we hide it well and don't flaunt it, basically no one will suspect anything. Hu Taijong clenched his fists, considering this batch of Dan medicine their capital to defy the heavens and change their fate. Taichuan, we will continue living in Hong Mansion for another month. Once the situation calms down, we will quietly take Jinger and Kinger out of the city to return to Evergreen Valley. Now we all have civilian status, and with Lord Hong's protection, Zhang Yiking and the others wouldn't dare to act against us easily. But to be safe, we still can't return to Red Tiger Ridge. Instead, we will find a small village in the depths of Evergreen Valley to settle down, calmly assimilate these cultivation resources, and once we are stronger, Proceed with the tasks the Lord instructed us 7 days ago. Thinking of Hong Yu's instructions 7 days ago, even though Hu Taijiang's heart was full of fear, his pupils held a faint, strong excitement. As for Hu Taichuan, the same applied. He nodded vigorously in response, then touched the scar on his face, his pupils filled with excitement, showing no trace of fear. At the end of March, on a pitch-black night, the Hu brothers went together to the main building of Hong Mansion to say farewell. Although they couldn't get a response from Hong Yu, both of them respectfully kowtowed before quietly taking their family away from Hong Mansion under the cover of night. April 20, year 297 of the KQ calendar. In the tranquil room of the main building of Hong Mansion, Xia Hong sat with his eyes tightly closed, a slight expression of pain appearing on his face. His whole body was enveloped with a thin layer of oval-shaped blood-colored medicinal power, resembling a blood cocoon. The medicinal power continuously seeped through the skin membrane, permeating deep into his blood and meridians. The dark red bone appearance suspended behind him showed almost no height change compared to 2 months ago. However, the meridian color on the periphery of the bone appearance had gradually changed from transparent to light red. Though not a normal blood color, it already began to take the rudimentary form of true human meridians. After an unknown period, the thin medicinal power was entirely absorbed by him. Once the blood and meridians returned to their normal state, he let out a long breath, and the 6-yang tall bone appearance behind him slowly dissipated. As before, unless I break through to the late stage, neither the bones nor the bone appearance would change, and the power growth is also minimal. However, the surprise brought to me by the washing marrow pill and the 12 blood scripture skills seems considerable. Xia Hong clenched his fist, sensing his strength, and his eyes immediately brightened. 45 jun, an increase of 4 jun, before breaking through to the late stage. This seems to be a way to enhance strength. When he passed through the bone-eroding path, his basic strength was 40 jun during the 4 months of healing and recuperation in Evergreen Valley. It only increased by 1 jun this time. After 3 months of consecutive seclusion, he managed to increase by 4 jun at once. At Xianyang level cultivation, each 1 jun increase in strength is enough to create a considerable gap with others. Not to mention this is the most basic strength enhancement. With Xia Hong's various means, he could at least convert this 4 jun into 8 jun of combat power. The true strength of a Tribulation Body Realm expert is unclear, but judging from Kai Yunju's ranking at the Xianyang level among the 4 vassals, it can be roughly inferred. He has been in Qinghua City for 4 months, and despite using circuitous methods, Xia Hong has learned quite a bit of information. Among the more important pieces is the Heaven and Earth rankings of the 4 vassals. The so-called Heavenly List is a ranking enthusiasts have compiled for Xianyang level experts in the 4 vassals, based on their previously revealed performances. The Earth List corresponds to the cold resistance level. The specific number of Xianyang level experts in the 4 vassals is certainly known to only a few, but anyway, the list includes 100 people. Kai Yunju's basic strength is 18 jun, and the strongest he can burst out is 25 jun, earning him the 46th place. Then the gold content of this heavenly list should not be too high. Even if I'm not first, I should be among the top batch. What a pity, if only there were a ranking for Tribulation Body Realm experts. Thinking of this, Xia Hong chuckled and shook his head. Last year, when he emerged from the bone-eroding path, judging by He Qing's reaction, he could roughly deduce there were likely no venerable level experts among the 4 vassals. This also means that in the land of the 4 vassals, the Tribulation Body Realm experts are already at the top. Who would have the guts to rank and sequence such people? Being at the top of the Xianyang level is close enough. As long as no Tribulation Body Realm expert makes a move on me, I'm basically safe. I'm low on Dan medicine and need to repurchase, and also need to investigate Chen Kang's situation. It's time to set off for Linqiu County. Oh, and see how those 4 are doing. Xia Hong's mind moved slightly, releasing his senses to perceive the situation of the 4 siblings in the auxiliary building. Moments later, a smile appeared on his face. Chapter 1378, Chapter 446, Arrangements, Power Increase and Departure, The Splendor of Hongmen Part 3. Not bad, all completed. Even the youngest got 9.5 hairs, which is overachieving. The situation of Su Jing and his 3 siblings was not entirely beyond his expectations. In the past 3 months, except for the time they went to rescue the Hu brothers, they had hardly stepped out of the side building, regardless of the matter or the person inviting them. This performance made Xia Hong quite satisfied. Moreover, when the initial goal was set for the four of them, it was established for 3 months. Xia Hong began his retreat on the night of January 17th, and today is already April 20th, so it is as if they were given an extra 3 days. Since all four have met the standard, Xia Hong would naturally keep his promise from 3 months ago and take them to Lin Chu County City with him. Kai Yunju hasn't come to bother me for 2 months now, probably because the trip to Snow Phoenix Mountain intimidated him. That's good, starting directly saves trouble. Xia Hong pondered for a moment, first getting up to put away the Enlightenment Lotus platform, and then said towards the door, "Go notify Su Jing and the others to come see me." "As you command, master." Hearing the deliberately coquettish response from the maid outside the door, Xia Hong's expression showed a slight playfulness. He had noticed the urgent desire to seek patronage from the servants in the residence from the first day he entered the mansion. To those who have entered slave status, attaching to a good master is indeed considered the foremost priority in life. This system satisfies both the superiority complex of those in power and gives a way out for the lower population. The only issue is that it doesn't provide guarantees for the lower class to leave their status. Coupled with the hereditary nature of such status, the upper levels have long formed solid interest groups. Except for the very few kind-hearted ones, most are unwilling to let slaves rise from their status, effectively blocking the path for social mobility. The hope for slaves to turn their lives around is very slim. In some respects, those who have been slaves for a long time are even more pitiable than those of lowly status. The latter at least know to strive with all their might to change their status. The former might have long gotten used to being slaves, forgetting even how to be normal people. Reflecting on the time he spent in isolation, when those maids delivered meals and deliberately flirtatiously posed in front of him, Xia Hong couldn't help but shake his head. While sighing, he also felt a trace of sympathy for these women. However, it was merely sympathy. Changing the situation for a few people, or even a group of people, is currently a very simple thing for him. But these don't achieve much. On a small scale, what he aims to change is Kaiku, which encompasses all four vassals. On a larger scale, it's the thousands of Ice Abyss people. One mustn't lose the greater for the smaller. Xia Hong pondered for a moment, sensing Su Jing and the others had already entered the main building. He then stood up with a smile, left the quiet room, and walked towards the main hall. In the 10th year of Great Xia, on May 10th, Hongmen City was bustling once again. The reason was simple. The annual martial arts competition of the Great Xia had entered its warm-up phase. During the first edition, due to various reasons, some youths and teenagers from the 9 towns couldn't participate, but this second edition completely ignited the entire 9 towns. With a year of brewing, the rewards for the top 100 of the 2 groups from the 9th year of Great Xia had been widely discussed and were known by almost everyone. As long as one could make it to the list, even being at the very end at 100th place, the rewards from Great Xia amounted to a value exceeding 50,000 taels of silver. The reward for the top 10 was valued at a minimum of 200,000 taels. The first place could even reach up to 600,000 taels. For the participants, the value of the reward materials was, of course, the primary concern. But this didn't mean they only cared about ranking rewards. Gaining fame was extremely tempting for young people, especially in front of peers from all 9 towns. Fame and status were one aspect, but if they could catch the eye of some big figure from any town, regardless if it was for apprenticeship or marriage, it was a chance to rise up overnight. Given these factors, it's natural that the number of participants in this year's martial arts competition was even more than last year, and significantly so. A large number of participants started arriving in Hongmen City gradually from April. Considering the overwhelming turnout this year, Lin Kai decided not to brand it as the 3 Towns Martial Arts as he did last year, but instead called it the 9 Towns Martial Arts directly. This name change further ignited the 9 towns, and by May, the number of people entering Hongmen City increased day by day. Lin Kai, being both the Hongmen Guardian and the chief organizer of the martial arts competition, faced with such a lively scene in the city, could not stop smiling every day. But by May 10th, he could no longer smile, because the city's population had officially exceeded 900,000. "Sir, it's a bit too much. We can't expand the city in time. The temporary housing areas we've constructed outside the city are already full, and there's significant pressure on city defense and security. We need to limit the inflow of people. In the top hall of the Hongmen government office, following the words of Ying Yi, the director of the Civil Affairs Department, he exchanged a smile with Lin Kai. Both of their eyes reflected some surprise and helplessness. It was not long ago that they worried about the slow population growth of Hongmen City, and no one expected that just a year later, the situation would change so drastically that they even considered the necessity of limiting population inflow. Chapter 1379, Chapter 447, Faint to the East Kaiku Prince, Chewy Mountain Fruit. It's only the 10th day today. There are still 20 days until the martial arts competition officially starts, and the population has already surpassed 900,000. By next month, it's conservatively estimated to exceed 1 million, which is more than the population of the northern 3 towns. It needs to be limited. Lin Kai estimated in his mind, quickly made a decision, and immediately ordered Yingyi. Notify Kangxiu to continue building wooden houses outside the city for temporary residents. Starting tomorrow, all outsiders, except for those participating in the martial arts competition, are not allowed to stay in the city for more than 10 hours. I will notify the 4 Qingjiao armies to set up checkpoints in the city for screening. Anyone who doesn't comply with the regulations will be expelled and not allowed to enter Hongmen for 5 years. This method is good. Yingya's eyes lit up upon hearing this, and he immediately nodded in agreement. The martial arts competition has age restrictions, with participants no older than 25 years, so most participants are accompanied by elders. This is the main reason for the sudden spike in the city's population. Non-participants of the martial arts competition, not being allowed to stay long in the city, can at least screen out 1/3 of the population, significantly reducing the pressure within the city. However, Yingye thought of something else and asked quietly, "Lord, the city's population is not like before. The pressure on security is immense. The Qingjiao, Golden Sword, Golden Eagle, Zhenwu 4 armies of 4,000 people are completely insufficient now. Shouldn't we ask Yuan Sijing to deploy 3 more large armies from Bashing? This year, we are using the banner of the 9 towns martial arts competition, and the northern 3 towns have been holding their breath, sending many people to cause trouble. Didn't Lord Zhao also say that recently there have been daily gatherings, disturbances, and even brawls in the city, mostly instigated by the 3 towns' youths? As the martial arts competition approaches, we don't even know what their plan is. It's better to increase manpower to be prepared." After hearing Yingya's words, Lin Kai's eyes flashed with a touch of mystery. Then he shook his head and said, "The Bashing army is immovable, and Yuan Sijing is too busy to deal with us now. The minister has been generous enough to allocate 4 armies for Hongmen." "Immovable?" Yingyi was stunned, then looked puzzled and asked. "Bashing has no defense necessity. The Cloud Jiao, Long Wu, Dragon Slayer, Tiger Leopard, Black Arrow, all 5 armies are stationed there. Isn't it unnecessary?" In September 2 years ago, after the Battle of Hongmen ended, Xia Chuan had the Long Wu, Dragon Slayer, Tiger Leopard, Black Arrow 4 armies stationed at Bashing, while the Cloud Dragon army stayed at Hongmen. The Qingjiao army led by Lin Kai completed the Bashing population migration mission, stationed in Xia City for a period, then came to Hongmen following the Cloud Jiao army to guard there. Last year, during the deceitful monsters' chaos at Hongmen, the Dragon Slayer army temporarily returned to assist for a while, then returned to Bashing. Hence, there have always been only the Cloud Dragon and Qingjiao armies at Hongmen. However, with the population surge at Hongmen, combined with the Great Xia adding 6 new armies of Steel Mane, Golden Sword, Golden Eagle, Zhenwu, Yingwu, Zhealong at the end of last year, there were changes in troop deployment at Hongmen this year. The Cloud Dragon army was transferred to Bashing, while Hongmen was guarded by the Qingjiao, Golden Sword, Golden Eagle, Zhenwu 4 armies. Compared to Hongmen, Bashing has no defense necessity. Is it worth keeping 5 large armies there? Moreover, the 5 armies include the Cloud Dragon and Long Wu, recognized as the strongest in Great Xia, with the remaining Dragon Slayer, Tiger Leopard, Black Arrow ranked among the best in strength. Seeing Lin Kai not answering, Yingye continued, "If the 5 armies can't be moved, aren't there other guards elsewhere? Long Mountain also has no need. The Mountain River, Falcon Hunting, Xingwu, Bijou 4 armies can be moved. Divine Marshal, Xuanwu, Longyuan, East Sun, Steel Mane, Yingwu, Zhealong, Fei Peng 8 armies. Our Great Xia has available troops everywhere, right?" After Ying Yi listed all 21 armies of Great Xia, Lin Kai's face was full of smiles, as if he wanted to say something but held back with a smile, shook his head and said, "Each army has its task, the minister will arrange it properly, why worry about so much?" Lord's reminder is right, I was thinking too much. Lin Kai's words were actually quite stern, but Ying Yi didn't detect even a hint of reproach in his tone, so his expression didn't change much. He quickly reacted, his face suddenly changing, looking up at Lin Kai with a hint of surprise and asking, "Lord, is the minister deploying troops externally?" Currently, only Hongmen has the greatest defense pressure. The minister and Yuan Sijang certainly can see this. How could it be that not a few armies could be dispatched from Great Xia's 21 armies? The only explanation is that Lin Kai is hiding something from him. Seeing Lin Kai nodding lightly, a flood of thoughts raced through Ying Yi's mind, quickly realizing something. He promptly pointed north towards Chui Mountain Town, his eyes showing inquiry. Upon receiving Lin Kai's confirming nod, Ying Yi's expression suddenly jolted. I see. I kept wondering why the Lord immediately launched the banner of the 9 Towns martial arts competition this year, even deliberately sending envoys to provoke the northern 3 towns. It turns out to be intentionally expanding the competition's influence to attract attention. Now that Ying Yi had unraveled everything, Lin Kai felt no need to conceal any more and lightly chuckled. Beishuo is infiltrating Chui Mountain too heavily. Duan Hong almost openly announced the merger into Beishuo. If we let him continue messing around, Beishuo will be right on our doorstep. Kai Qiu's princely heir, Kai Shiki, boasts intelligence, thinking that by relying on Kai Qiu's reputation, he can threaten Duan Hong from joining Beishuo, yet little does he know Duan Hong sees him as a fool. Chapter 1380, Chapter 447, Faint to the east, strike to the west, Kai Qiu Prince, Chui Mountain Fruit /2. Upon mentioning Kai Shiki, a cold smile appeared on Lin Kai's face. Although he didn't want to admit it, he had to say that if one were to find the most famous people in the 9 towns right now, this princely heir from Kai Qiu, Kai Shiki, would definitely be one of them. Kai Shiki started his activities in the 9 towns territory last October. Of course, through Jinshan Town's intelligence, Lin Kai had already learned that this group of people actually came from Kai Qiu at the end of August last year. They clearly stayed in Jinshan Town for over a month before officially starting their activities. The reason for his large fame was that at the end of last year, he held a unique innocence conference in a place called Qinggeng Mountain at the border of Jinshan Wuchuan, in the name of the 2 lords Shangyuan Yang and Qin Feng. Before the conference was even held, Kai Shiki had Jinshan Wuchuan spread the news throughout the entire 9 towns territory. On the invitation sent to the lords of the 7 towns, his name was actually placed before the 2 lords Qin Feng and Shangyuan Yang. The so-called Innocence Conference was naturally to wash away the wrongful grievances suffered by Kai Qiu feudal town due to Chen Yiking's misdeeds last year. To be fair, that Kai Shiki indeed had some means. The joint invitation with signatures from the lords of Jinshan Wuchuan was taken seriously by the 7 towns. As 6 lords attended, only Great Xia sent Xiang Fuhai. There was no other choice. If possible, Great Xia certainly wouldn't do such attention-seeking deeds. The key was that Lord Xia Hong was out, and even if he wanted to go, there was no one. Thus, they declared that Xia Hong was in seclusion and sent Xiang Fuhai as a replacement. Officially, Xiang Fuhai was present, but in reality, it was Xia Chuan leading the team. Saying Xiang Fuhai led the team was just to save face for Kai Qiu's prince. As the Lord didn't show up, it would be too much not to send someone at cold resistance level. Unfortunately, they underestimated Kai Qiu's prince's sensitivity to face. Even though Xia Chuan had been very considerate, upon realizing that Great Xia's lord was absent, Kai Shiki lashed out at Great Xia, even directly calling them uncivilized barbarians. A mere 53 animal main level, if it weren't for Kai Qiu's name, huh? When the lord is humiliated, the minister dies. At that innocence conference, Lin Kai was present too, and Great Xia was so publicly humiliated by a little brat that if Xia Chuan hadn't intervened in time, he and the others from Yuan Cheng would have already eliminated Kai Shiki. Regardless, after the Innocence Conference was held, Kai Shiki truly detailed the incident involving Chen Yiking and seized the opportunity to clear Kai Qiu of its grievances. Furthermore, he completely made a name for himself in the 9 towns, and strongly claimed Kai Qiu feudal town would never act wantonly like Chen Kang, promising to bring permanent peace and stability to the 9 towns territory in the future. Whether it worked or not is another matter, but at least among the leadership of each town, much of their original caution and suspicion towards Kai Qiu had now shifted to Chen Kang. In the succeeding months, Kai Shiki roamed the northern territories, acting chivalrously everywhere, which truly earned Kai Qiu a wave of goodwill. Given these premises, it's no surprise that Chui Mountain's events became associated with Kai Shiki. Currently, it's confirmed that behind Beishuo is Chen Kang, while behind Wuchuan and Jinshan are Kai Qiu. These two sides are currently competing over Chui Mountain. Chen Kang wants Beishuo to annex Chui Mountain, whereas Kai Qiu is vigorously preventing it. Kai Shiki himself is already stationed in Chui Mountain town, yet Chen Kang's hidden hand is still unseen. The superior and inferior are already clear. Does this fool really think he can scare Duan Hong with just those 50 cold resistance level individuals? Yingyi also knew about Chui Mountain's situation and the intelligence on Kai Shiki, and he naturally understood what Lin Kai was saying. Thinking of Kai Shiki, he couldn't help but shake his head and reveal a look of disbelief. According to his understanding, Kai Shiki is currently stationed with over 50 cold resistance level individuals in Chui Mountain. Without full support from Shang Yuanyang and Qin Feng, what confidence does he have to intimidate Duan Hong from leaning towards Beishuo? Lin Kai smiled slightly, shaking his head. If there were no Chen Kang and only Kai Qiu as a single feudal town, Kai Shiki's intimidation might work, but with another feudal town, it's hard to be effective. From Duan Hong's proactive cooperation over the past few months, continually allowing Beishuo's people into town, it's evident he doesn't take Kai Shiki's threat seriously at all. Ultimately, it's about power. No matter how strong Kai Qiu is, distant water can't extinguish a nearby fire. Duan Hong's heart was already inclined towards Beishuo, especially with Chen Kang's support. What use are those 50 cold resistance individuals? His so-called Kai Qiu princely heir status might protect his life at most, but he's far from being able to meddle in the affairs of the 9 towns. Yingyi shook his head. In terms of birth, he was certainly inferior to Kai Shiki, but if it came to judging situations, he didn't believe he would lose to him. Finishing his thoughts, he suddenly thought of something, looked up at Lin Kai and asked in a low voice, "Sir, is the infiltration of Kai Qiu still personally handled by the minister? With the Lord Duan Hong's proactive cooperation, the number of Beishuo people currently in Chui Mountain town should be more than ours." That might not necessarily be the case. Lin Kai suddenly interrupted Yingyi, a smile appearing on his face. The so-called Beishuo people sneaking into town were in reference to Kai Shiki. Chapter 1381, Chapter 447, Faint to the East Kai Qiu Prince, Chui Mountain Fruit /3. This princely heir from Kai Qiu, though with a noble background and strong abilities, ultimately has no real foundation in the 9 towns. With the 50-odd cold resistance level warriors he brought, the situation he can control is naturally extremely limited. With Duan Hong's cooperation, as long as Beishuo is not acting under his nose, they can essentially stuff as many people into the town as they want. Unlike Kai Shiki, Great Xia's infiltration of Chui Mountain town began right after the Hongmen battle ended the year before last. Therefore, even though Kai Shiki is in Chui Mountain town, his understanding of the place is still less than that of Great Xia. With the full cooperation of Mu Long's former subordinates and the Mu family, over the past year and a half, our infiltration into Chui Mountain is far deeper than you can imagine. Otherwise, how would the minister know so much about the situation? Lin Kai's eyes flickered slightly. He paused and then continued. Beishuo now fears arousing Kai Shiki's suspicion, so they've been secretly sending people to Chui Mountain town. Although the actions are small, they can't escape our notice. Yang Zhen has the support of Chen Kang, and right now he doesn't dare to blatantly annex Chui Mountain. The biggest concern should not be Kai Shiki, but us, or rather the other 7 towns. Upon hearing these words, Yingyi furrowed his brow slightly, but after a moment of contemplation, he quickly understood and nodded, saying, "Over in Kai Qiu, Chen Kang can be handled, and Yang Zhen annexing Chui Mountain hasn't really relied on Chen Kang's power. The accusation of colluding with Outer Realm forces can't be pinned on him either. But if he dares to be the first to destroy a town, it will inevitably cause the remaining 7 towns to jointly denounce him. At that point, magnifying his relationship with Chen Kang, Beishuo would effectively be severing itself from the 9 towns. Let alone the southern 5 towns, even Jin Mountain and Wuchuan would probably be wary of him." "Exactly." Upon hearing this, Lin Kai smiled and continued. This is Yang Zhen's biggest concern at present. Fortunately, Great Xia doesn't have this worry. Ying Yi suddenly thought of something, his eyes lit up, and a broad smile appeared on his face as he laughed, saying, "Haha, that's right. Great Xia doesn't need to destroy Chewy Mountain at all. It's also because Duan Hong is too foolish, eager to integrate into Beishuo, blind to the situation, only fearing Great Xia and worrying about the feudal towns. If not for this, we wouldn't have found such a good opportunity." Lin Kai's expression turned peculiar, thinking about Duan Hong's series of actions since the Hongmen battle the year before last, and he couldn't help but sigh at how he managed to cultivate to the Xianyang level. "All right, that's enough talk, Lin Kai was about to dismiss Ying Yi, but before he could finish speaking, he sensed something, suddenly turning his head to look outside the hall. Next to him, Ying Yi also felt it and hurriedly turned alongside him. A white silhouette came into view. The two looked up to see a graceful figure, dressed in a white palace gown and wearing a silk veil, walking slowly towards them from outside the hall door. The person wore a veil, and although Lin Kai and Ying Yi couldn't clearly see the face, as soon as they met those deep, authoritative phoenix eyes and saw the stunning palace gown that turned from white to red under light, they immediately understood. Hongmen Guardian Lin Kai pays respects to Madam. Hongmen Chief Order Ying Yi pays respects to Madam. No need for formalities, stand up. I'm going to Chewy Mountain Town and happen to pass by here. Xia Chuan said that there is a lot of intelligence about Chewy Mountain in your hands, so I specifically came to ask you. Is there anything I need to know right now? I'm about to depart promptly." Lin Kai heard that Li Xuanling was speaking to him, and rather than immediately answering, he paused in surprise and couldn't help but ask, "Madam, pardon my boldness, but wasn't it the minister who said he was going to Chewy Mountain Town? Why has it changed to you? He is in seclusion and cannot come out in the short term." Hearing Li Xuanling's response, Lin Kai and Ying Yi were momentarily stunned, and then they realized with faces full of joy. The minister is in seclusion and won't be out anytime soon. They both knew very well what this meant. Chapter 1382, Chapter 448, Chewy Mountain Fission. Mo calendar year 134, May 15. Chewy Mountain Town, daytime. In the Mo South Slope territory, after all, there aren't many cold resistance level people, and very few can bear the cold light to go out and about, so even in the relatively most populated town, there are few people on the streets during the day, making it unusually quiet. If it's like this inside the city, then the city gate area is even more deserted. At the south city gate of Chewy Mountain, apart from more than 100 steadfast yellow armored soldiers standing dutifully outside the half-open gate, there wasn't another soul in sight. No wonder, the busiest time for the gates is usually at night. During the day, unless there's a special situation, no one enters or leaves the city. Speaking of which, precisely for this reason, all town cities usually only send a small number of cold resistance level to guard the gates during the day. So the situation at the South City Gate now is clearly a bit abnormal. Soon, a middle-aged man dressed as a general with two swords at his waist, clad in silver armor, slowly walked down from the city gate tower. Seeing the group of soldiers standing unwaveringly on both sides of the gate, the middle-aged man's face first showed a trace of approval, and then he quickly lit a bonfire in the corner of the gate, shouting to the group of soldiers, "Brothers, you've all worked hard. Anyway, there aren't many people now, come over and warm yourselves by the fire." Upon hearing the middle-aged man's order, the yellow-armored soldiers immediately relaxed their expressions, hurried to the bonfire, shook off the snowflakes from their bodies, and then extended their hands to warm themselves by the fire. Cold resistance levels can resist the severe cold, but aren't immune to feeling cold. Being able to warm by the fire is undoubtedly more comfortable than standing like posts on either side of the city gate. However, it wasn't long before one soldier couldn't help but speak up. "Colonel, pardon my bluntness, but Deputy Army Chief Duan is going too far, isn't he? This gate-guarding duty shouldn't fall to our yellow armor army." These words seemed to ignite the long-suppressed anger in everyone's hearts, as many began to voice their opinions. Back when the Lord and Army Chief founded the army, they were clear that our yellow armor army was the town's heavy asset, the core cornerstone and greatest reliance for Chewy Mountain's foothold in the Mo South Slope territory. We are not to be deployed unless necessary, but now they want us to do even gate-guarding duties. What are the 15,000 defensive army doing then? Things have changed. When the army was founded, the former leader said personally that only he and the army chief had the authority to mobilize the Yellow Armor Army. Now, we're being used at the whim of Duan Mayan, Duan Sheng, Duan Yang, and Duan Chang. Well, our third army unit isn't the only one suffering, right? The first army seems quite comfortable. Of course, they're under the direct lineage of the Lord, the Duan family, who dares to command them recklessly. The second army started restructuring last year, and more than half were removed due to age restrictions. I hear replacements are almost done, so they're likely to turn their sights on us in the third army soon. What nonsense about age restrictions? It's just an excuse to weaken the Mu family's influence in the army because the main army chief was crippled. Even before the second army began restructuring, Vice Commander Mu Ziheng of the Mu family was already removed, and those soldiers dismissed were all closely aligned with the Mu family. I've heard the same. King as deputy army chief position was eliminated last year, leaving only the commander position for our third army, but I've heard his commander position is also at risk. Our third army is the direct line of the army chief. How will the Lord change that? Replace us all? That's very likely. The Duan family are just scoundrels. The army chief was only captured by the great Xia, not dead. The great Xia Lord has publicly stated that he would return him after 10 years. They're so eager to suppress the Mu family now. What will they do when the army chief returns? It won't matter if the army chief returns. He's been crippled. As everyone was discussing indignantly, the silver-armored middle-aged general unexpectedly reminded them with a word. Upon hearing his voice, everyone's expression stiffened slightly, and they turned to look at the middle-aged man, all showing deep resentment on their faces. Just like in other towns, Chewy Mountain also had two types of troops, the ordinary defensive army and the elite Yellow Armor Army. The Yellow Armor Army had 3 units. The first army was considered the Duan family's direct lineage, the third army as the Mu family's direct lineage, and only the second army was alternately commanded by the Duan and Mu families. Although that was the case, in terms of actual influence, the Mu family was stronger. Those on gate duty now were all third army soldiers. Since the Battle of Hongmen 2 years ago, when Army Chief Mu Long had his arms cut off by the Great Xia Lord Xia Hong and was taken to serve in Great Xia, their situation, as the Mu family's direct unit, had significantly worsened in the town. Take the northern 3 towns, for example. There were basically 2 types of internal high-level situations among the 9 towns in the Mo South Slope. One was like Beishuo and Jin Mountain, dominated by one family, with Beishuo governed by the Yang family and Jin Mountain by the Shangyuan family. The other was like Wuchuan, where the Qin family and Yi family shared power. Chui Mountain belongs to the latter, with both the Duan family and the Mu family in power. Strictly speaking, Duan Hong was actually a junior to Mu Long. Chui Mountain's foundation was initially built by Mu Long and Duan Hong's father Duan Zhao together. In the year and a half since Mu Long's absence, under the instigation of the Duan family's younger generation, Lord Duan Hong continuously suppressed the Mu family. First, Duan Xing replaced Mu Qingyu as the head of the inspectorate, and then Zhu Ziying, Helian Shan, Qiu Sanming, and many of Mu Long's former subordinates were dismissed. Chapter 1383, Chapter 448, Chui Mountain Fission Part 2. The most excessive thing was the removal of Mu Qinghe from his position as deputy army chief. Thanks to the Third Army of the Yellow Armor Army being Mu family's direct troops, perhaps fearing mass resistance from the soldiers, Duan Hong retained Mu Qinghe's position as commander of the Third Army. The Mu family and Mu Long's former subordinates, being so blatantly oppressed and targeted, combined with their continued marginalization in the town, how could they not be discontent? Duan family's actions were not difficult to understand. Mu Long, after all, was one of the only 2 Xianyang-level powerhouses in entire Chui Mountain, and in terms of seniority, even the Lord Duan Hong could not surpass him. Such a person, who had strong influence both in the military and all around the town, now that something has happened to him, it's natural for Duan family to take the opportunity to purge his influence and completely control Chui Mountain. The problem lies in being too anxious and appearing too unscrupulous. Mu Long was indeed abolished, but he wasn't dead. Moreover, Xia Hong publicly promised to bring him back after 10 years. Since the Battle of Hongmen, not even 2 years have passed, and among the top ranks of the town, not a single Mu family member can be seen. Even Mu Long's former subordinates, Apart from the few who proactively sought out Duan family to pledge loyalty, most of them have either been stripped of their positions, left idle at home, or became ordinary hunters, devoid of any authority. At present, throughout Chewy Mountain, Mu family only has the third army of the Yellow Armor Army left, and according to the soldier who first spoke, Lord Duan Hong is about to take action against the third army. Mu King's position as commander will soon be revoked, and then these third army soldiers are likely to be purged from the army, replaced with others. The soldier who initially spoke glanced at the middle-aged silver-armored general, his eyes briefly flashing with a dark hue, then tentatively began to speak slowly. The Lord is too confused. When they heard him directly targeting Lord Duan Hong, the soldiers showed surprised expressions on their faces, but did not interrupt, only looked up at him. In such a hurry to purge the old subordinates of the army chief and Mu family, just to lead us to defect to Beishuo. Our Chewy Mountain town still has 15,000 defensive army, plus these 3,000 yellow armor soldiers, able to stand firm in the 9 towns and safeguard Chewy Mountain town's legacy. Why should we wag our tails pleading for favors from others? Upon hearing this, the soldier's expression suddenly turned sullen. The relationship between Duan family and Yang family is not a secret in Chewy Mountain. In the past year or two, Lord Duan Hong's intention to seek refuge with Beishuo, though not known to all in the town, these yellow armor soldiers are well aware. Regardless of what others think, as the backbone of Chewy Mountain town, these individuals, whether starting from heartfelt emotions or considering practical interests, definitely do not want to be annexed by Beishuo. To take 10,000 steps back, Lord Duan Hong views these former subordinates of Mu Long the same as he does the Mu family. Even if he truly wants to take Chewy Mountain into Beishuo, he will only seek to maximize benefits for his own direct troops, the Yellow Armor First Army and the Duan family. And these people, along with the Mu family and the multitude of people in the town, will ultimately just become bargaining chips for Duan Hong and his allegiance to Beishuo, sacrificing in the collapse of Chewy Mountain town's legacy. It's a pity the army chief is not here. If the army chief were present, the Lord wouldn't be able to act so wantonly. Before Lord Duan Zhao passed away, he left a last word, saying Beishuo is treacherous, but I see the Lord has long forgotten this. I have been annoyed by Beishuo people for years, especially those few from Yang family. Every time they come to Chewy Mountain, they act like owners, not regarding our Chewy Mountain people at all. Duan family are a bunch of spineless people, treating them as if they're their own father's humph. If we really need a backer, Jin Mountain and Wuchuan, which isn't better than Beishuo. And there's Great Xia. Even though the Lord Xia Hong cut off the army chief's arms, he didn't kill him. In front of so many people, he not only praised the army chief's family style, but also promised to imprison the army chief for only 10 years. Considering the situation of the 6 towns forcing last year's battle of Hongmen, what Lord Xia Hong did was no easy feat. In my view, it indeed befits his reputation for benevolence. That's right, Great Xia is flourishing, already the undisputed #1 town in Mo. If seeking to rely on the northern 3 towns, it would be better to look to them. I've been to Hongmen, and without exaggeration, comparing its situation, the other 8 town cities cannot compare, let alone Xia City. After last year's martial arts competition finals, many messages circulated from Xia City. Their contribution value system heard that the dragon carp pill only costs less than 4,000 silver, and green cod pill, black death pill, yangyuan pill, these precious Dan medicine, when bought by their own people, the price differs more than 20 times compared to outsiders. I heard that too. No wonder Great Xia's youth are so strong. Last year's martial arts competition rankings, in both groups' top 100 lists, people from other towns occupied only a little more than 10%. They, from the beginning filled with righteous indignation discussing their own town situation, switched to longing for Great Xia. Everyone unknowingly veered off topic. The soldier who was clearly guiding the conversation saw that the timing was right, suddenly turned his head to look at the middle-aged silver-armored general ahead, bowed and spoke. Captain Hellion, you are the son of Commander Hellion, also considered part of the army chief's old entourage. Are you willing to remain mere support of Duan family and merge into Beishuo? The middle-aged man being questioned was taken aback when he heard this, then looked up to see all the soldiers watching him, at once bowed his head and fell into thought. Seeing him like this, the soldiers did not disturb him, just waited quietly. Although they did not speak, their eyes clearly showed some expectance. Each army of the Yellow Armor Army consists of 1,000 people, divided into 3 camps. The most elite is the Scout Camp, with 200 people. Then there is the 1st and 2nd Camp, each with 400 people. These more than 100 people all belong to the Scout Camp. And the middle-aged silver armor general in front of them is Captain Helion Ba of the Scout Camp. Helion Ba's father, Helion Shan, is precisely one of Mu Long's 3 major disciples, who was last year removed by Lord Duan Hong from his position as one of the Town Defense Army commanders. This also counts as a direct lineage. Helion Shan is Mu Long's disciple, and Helion Ba, the disciple grandson, early on held a position in the 3rd Army of the Yellow Armor Army, bloodline-wise, is clearly Mu Long's old subordinates. Thus, if saying the suffocating repression felt inside, the soldiers present are likely being outmatched by Helion Ba, considering Helion Ba's father having been demoted from a senior town figure to a sideline character. Now that the reform of the 3 armies is about to take place, with even Commander Mu Qinghe being dismissed, Helion Ba's position as captain naturally cannot be retained. Helion Ba, looking at everyone's gazes, shows anger on his face. Of course, I'm unwilling. My father Helion Shan once followed the teacher-grandfather's path, fighting countless battles grand and small, just so Chewy Mountain can stand firm in the 9 towns. No exaggeration, half of Chewy Mountain was fought down by teacher-grandfather and my father's people. Now we people have become Duan family's bargaining chips to rely on Beishuo, damn Duan family. If they truly dare to do this, I'll rebel directly. Directly rebel. With Helion Ba's words falling, the group of soldiers around the campfire suddenly fell into a death-like silence. They instinctively showed a trace of fear on their faces at first, then bowed their heads into deep thought, not knowing what to ponder, their eyes filled with struggle and hesitation. That's right, rebellion against them, damn it. Duan family's conduct is too ugly. Mu family has contributed so much to our Chewy Mountain. They discard like wagon after it's broken quickly. Who guarantees us people won't face the same fate as Mu family in the future? Finally, someone spoke first. Once there was a first, soon there was a second. Rebel. Right, rebel. Chapter 1384. Chapter 449. Accelerated fission, transfer of military authority, armed petition and mutiny. The South City Gate appeared to be full of fervor, but ultimately there were only over 100 Yellow Armor Army soldiers from the reconnaissance camp. All in all, it was of a small scale, unable to make much of an impact. Helion Ba, using some unknown means, quickly managed to calm everyone down. There were only 2 hours during the daylight, and as night fell, the city gate began to change guard. Those coming to change guard were a troop clad in ordinary 1,000 forged iron armor, and the soldier count was about over 400. Leading them was a middle-aged silver armor general, who, with an air of arrogance, did not even greet and directly ordered his men to begin the change of guards. The soldiers of the defensive army laughed and walked out of the city gate, not a single one taking the initiative to greet. Seeing this, the faces of the Yellow Armor Army soldiers turned slightly angry. The status of the 2 armies was not the main issue. Being sent to guard the city gate during the day was itself a task of helping the defensive army, but now it seemed that not only did these people not appreciate it, but they also regarded them as fools. Return to camp. Noticing this, Helion Ba said nothing but ordered with a somber tone, then led over 100 of his soldiers walking towards the city. Captain Helion, nothing happened during the day, right? Yet those people were not willing for him to leave just like that. The 2nd camp captain of the defensive 3 armies, Duan He, seeing Helion Ba about to leave the city gate, deliberately turned his head to make a mocking remark. Helion Ba, who was leading his men forward, immediately stopped upon hearing this. His already gloomy expression grew more enraged. The people next to Duan He, as if not noticing Helion Ba's expression, continued their mocking words. Though the daytime temperatures are low and there's heavy snow, your Yellow Armor Army is, after all, the elite of the township, so make sure to keep an eye on the city gate. Don't let anything slip up. Brothers of the Yellow Armor Army, hurry back and rest well. By dawn, you'll have to come back and guard the city gate. Deputy Army Chief Duan Yang has already ordered that for the coming month, your Yellow Armor 3 armies will be guarding the city gate during the day. The soldiers of the Yellow Armor Army, gritting their teeth in fury, couldn't maintain their composure for long as someone stepped out, clearly ready to retort. Let's go. Yet before they could speak, they were angrily stopped by Helion Ba. The soldiers, upon realizing something, clenched their fists and suppressed their anger, following Helion Ba into the city. Seeing that Helion Ba and his men did not respond, a sneer appeared on the faces of Du and He and several others around him. With just that much temper, they deserve to guard the city gate every day, HMPH. What kind of elite troops are these? Clearly remnants of the Chewy Mountain rebels. The Lord has repeatedly ordered the Yellow Armor 3 armies to sever ties with the Mew family, but they stubbornly refuse, just like the 7 other defensive armies who only recognize the Mew family and not the Lord. Such chaotic troops should be disbanded soon, replaced by our own people. Mew King, his commander position is almost gone, and soon their 3 armies will undergo reorganization. They're just grasshoppers after autumn, won't last long. They, like the great Xia, Chewy Mountain also had an inner city and an outer city, with the Yellow Armor Army as the core elite of the town. Their camps were naturally set up in the inner city area. Helion Ba, leading over 100 elite from the reconnaissance camp, returned to the inner city camp without further words, ordering his soldiers to rest in their barracks. He then left the camp alone, heading towards his family's home in the inner city. His father, Helion Shan, was one of the 3 main disciples of the former army chief, Mew Long. The Helion family in Chewy Mountain Town was naturally esteemed, with their residence built in the west district of the inner city, almost next to the Mew clan land. Helion Ba, familiar with the way, soon arrived at his home, and upon seeing the once busy gates now left with only 2 lonely servants, showed a cold smile, not acknowledging the bowing servants at the door, and quickly stepped inside. Upon reaching the main building of the residence, Helion Ba stopped at the entrance, and with respect clasped his hands and said, "Father, I've returned. Come in." In the main hall of the main building, a white-haired elderly man in yellow robes, looking to be in his 70s or 80s, sat quietly at the main seat. He was Helion Ba's father, the former deputy army chief, commander of the East Qing Camp's 2,000 defensive army, Helion Shan. Noting the slight decline in his father's vitality, Helion Ba immediately clenched his fists, a trace of unwillingness rising between his brows. In Chewy Mountain, there were 6 deputy army chiefs, Duan Chang, Duan Mayan, Mew King, Zhu Ziying, Qiu Sanming, and his own father, Helion Shan. The Mew family's influence in the army had always surpassed that of the Duan family. It's no secret that the Duan clan, led by Lord Duan Hong, had been vying for military power in Chewy Mountain with the Mew family for years. The issue was that the 2 founders of the Chewy Mountain military, including the former Lord Duan Zhao, had passed away, leaving only Army Chief Mew Long. Thus, Mew Long was essentially the spiritual leader of the entire Chewy Mountain army. Taking military power from him was not so easy, especially after the turmoil at Daju Temple 2 years ago, where Duan Chang attempted to seize Hongmen with his troops but failed and instead occupied Peak Mountain Camp. However, just a day after taking Peak Mountain, it was seized by the great Xia, with Duan Chang himself being killed by Xia Chuan personally. After Duan Chang's death, although Duan Sheng promptly succeeded him, in the Battle of Peak Mountain, Duan Chang not only lost his life, but also sacrificed 2,000 troops from the defensive army, plus 400 cold resistance level soldiers from Jiangyan realm, which undoubtedly intensified the soldiers' dissatisfaction with the Duan family, making their fight for military power even harder. Chapter 1385, Chapter 449, Fission Accelerates Transfer of Military Authority, Military Petition and Mutiny, Part 2. The Chewy Mountain military system is similar to Mo's various towns, with both the army chief and the lord in charge of the entire army, and they also have the authority to mobilize 3,000 elite troops of the Yellow Armor Army. The remaining 6 deputy army chiefs each lead 2 to 3,000 troops of the defensive army. Duan Mayan and Mew King, aside from each commanding 3,000 troops of the defensive army, also serve as commanders of the 1st and 3rd Yellow Armor Army, responsible for town defense. The remaining 4 deputy army chiefs each lead 2,000 troops of the defensive army, in charge of the defense of the 4 major camps in Chewy Mountain, Jiangyan, Tailing, East Qing, and Pingkang. It can only be said that times change. The death of Duan Chang in May 2 years ago indeed made the Duan family lose part of their influence in the military again, while the Mew family lived comfortably for quite some time. However, just 4 months later, in September of the same year, Mew Long, the army chief, had an incident during the Hongmen battle, ushering in a winter for the Mew family faction. Starting from last year, Zhu Ziying, who was in charge of the Tailing camp, and Qiu Sanming, who was in charge of the Pinking camp, were successively removed from their deputy army chief positions and replaced by Duan Yang and Duan Chen, respectively. Until this January, even his father Helian Shan could not escape the fate of being removed, now idling at home. The removal of the 3 deputy army chiefs was just the tip of the iceberg. In the military, down to commander, colonel, and even captain level, anyone with deep ties to the Mu family who did not pledge allegiance to the Duan family or had ties too deep to be severed were either removed or driven out of the military. Not only in the military, but all institutions, including the inspectorate, the Chamber of Commerce, and other town institutions, went through a major reshuffle, with many people from the Mu family faction being replaced. Currently, the military and government institutions of Chui Mountain are almost entirely controlled by the Duan family. Fighting for power is ultimately for profit. The core purpose of controlling military and government institutions, to put it plainly, is to seize town resources, or more bluntly, to secure more cultivation resources and silver. Whether for individuals or families, strength is always the foundation of one's standing, and cultivation resources are the only way to enhance strength. Helian Ba is over 50 years old and naturally understands this well. His father, Helian Shan, who is already 76 years old this year, when the mentor Mu Long was around, relied on the deputy army chief position to receive significant cultivation resources annually, not to mention the over 3 million taels of current silver, which was the key reason they were able to join the ranks of the renowned Helian family in Chui Mountain. But since this January, after his father's removal from the deputy army chief position, his 2 uncles Helian Cheng and Helian Gang and other members of the Helian family were also successively removed from positions in various major military and government institutions of the town. As of this month, the Helian family has been completely marginalized. Being marginalized is one thing, but the Lord Duan Hong did not assign them new positions. He treated them as ordinary people. The Helian family, with over 100 members, suddenly faced tighter days. They aren't facing starvation, and it's not that they don't have cultivation resources, but transitioning from frugality to extravagance is easy. From extravagance to frugality is hard. The reduction in material resources has already caused significant dissatisfaction, not to mention the psychological gap. Helian Ba remembers clearly that his father Helian Shen used to gain 1 to 2 levels of strength annually, thanks to his mentor's gifts and his own purchased cultivation resources. But since the incident with Mu Long, 2 years ago, his father's strength has remained stagnant at 39 manes. Others may not understand the reason, but as his son, Helian Ba naturally knew. His father Helian Shan, being of such an age, had long reached peak cultivation of cold resistance level. To further enhance strength, cultivation was useless, only Dan medicine could help. And for enhancing the strength at peak cultivation of cold resistance level, the 9 towns territory currently has only 4 types of Dan medicine: Tiger Power Pill from Jinshan Town, Dragon Carp Pill from Jiangxia Town, Green Cod Pill from Bashing Town, and the newly developed Black Death Pill by Great Xia. In fact, during the Daju Temple battle 2 years ago, Bashing was destroyed, and the 6 town lords who divided Bashing Prefecture had already shared the formula of the Green Cod Pill. The problem is knowing the formula doesn't help, you need the materials. Green Cod Pill, as the name implies, its main ingredient is a water-cold beast called green cod, which is only found in the Xing River Basin, mostly concentrated in the Bashing Water Area segment. This segment is entirely controlled by Great Xia now. First, Great Xia wouldn't allow outsiders to enter their waters for fishing, nor would they sell green cod to others. As such, the formula of the green cod pill has basically become meaningless. Hence, for enhancing strength at peak cold resistance level, Chui Mountain can only buy from Jinshan, Jiangxia, and Great Xia's 3 towns. The problem is, the production of such top-tier Dan medicine is inherently limited, and the 3 towns are bound to prioritize supplying their own of cold resistance level, so it's unlikely they'll sell in large quantities, meaning Chui Mountain can buy only a limited amount each year. Before Great Xia occupied the east exit, based on the production fluctuation from Jinshan, Jiangxia, and Bashing, Chui Mountain could historically purchase between 500 to 800 pills annually. After Great Xia occupied the east exit, they boosted the production, giving Chui Mountain a bit of an advantage, purchasing a total of 1,200 pills 2 years ago, and even higher last year, reaching 1,400 pills. Pills seem like a lot, but considering there are over 7,000 individuals of cold resistance level in Chewy Mountain Town, it's actually not much. Of course, not everyone of cold resistance level is at peak cultivation, so not everyone needs these damn medicines. The problem is, the worse the battle body talent, the faster one reaches the cold resistance level, so even with calculations, there are at least over 1,000 people who need them. If distributed evenly, each person wouldn't even get one pill, which is meaningless for enhancing strength, and the town naturally wouldn't distribute them this way.